1,000 acres, give or take, and both problematic, obviously, and both not going to be aided by weather. We'll talk to Don Day live in the 7 o'clock hour around 7:20 and talk about how weather factors in to these fires. I mean, it's October 1st, and to be talking about 80-degree high with sun and wind, it's weird. Anyway, we'll get into those fires. We're going to talk about running over wolves today. I can't believe we're talking about with primarily a snow machine, because that's the only time you can catch a wolf is when you bog them down in snow. Yeah, I just finished reading Robert Heinlein's Stranger in a Strange Land. It's basically about a Martian who comes to Earth. What if Martians came to Earth and the first thing they saw, they dropped in on the hearing the other day about whether humans are okay to run over wolves? And you got to be thinking, why is anybody trying to run over wildlife anyway? We got to talk about some folks that have left us fairly recently. Famed musician Bruce Hauser, beloved teacher and football coach David Tremblay of Du Bois, and a kid on the Wyoming speech and debate team. So, yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to talk pumpkin, some giant pumpkin. I don't know if we're growing them or smashing them. Maybe we can get Andrew Rossi to better explain what's going on with the pumpkins. My favorite story of the morning, and we're going to talk to Jimmy in a minute, Jimmy Orr, who is going to let us know what are the top stories of the day. My favorite, though, right off the bat, is the state flag backwards? I never thought about it. And think right now, which way is it facing? I bet you can't remember. Is the bison facing to the left, to the right? Is the Wyoming state flag with the bison facing the wrong way? The woman who created the flag, the woman whose idea it was, said the state got it wrong. When she sent them the artwork, they flipped it backwards. Which way is it facing? Think about that. I'm not going to give you a hint. And which way should it be facing according to the flag's designer? I also want to talk about a guy who's bleaching $1 bills in order to make them $100 bills. Genius! Brilliant! He's doing this so he can buy more meth, allegedly. But still, it's got inklings of Catch Me If You Can. Remember that movie with Leonardo? Yeah, I'm gonna show you a screen. I'm afraid to do it. I might blow this computer up. Never mind. DiCaprio. He plays a real life guy who was, he bleached checks. He did everything to basically avoid working. So yeah, this genius who's pulled over for smoking a joint, allegedly. He also deals meth, allegedly. And he doesn't have a job, so he just takes $1 bills, puts 2 zeros after the one, and voila, it's 100. And we're going to talk about Chester, the lost pack horse, Utah hunter in the Bondurant area. Had a 2-year-old pack horse get loose. He just went back to Utah and said, oh, the heck with it. Not exactly, but he was hoping Chester turned up, and he did. And he's going to get back home. So we got a lot to do. I'm going to talk to Jimmy. I'm going to try to get him up on the Zoomer, and we'll do it right after we take.
Cowboy State Daily is all about Wyoming. Daily features include our popular sunrise photo of the day, our daily Darwin, Same Guys Dancing, and more. You'll enjoy our regular Wyoming life features, daily video newscasts and podcasts, and frequent opinion pieces from a carefully curated collection of the state's finest columnists. All of this in addition to the core mission, providing statewide news coverage in a clear, plain manner with up-to-the-minute breaking news when and where it happens. Cowboy State Daily's collective of reporters, photographers, videographers, and editors are dedicated to quality, unbiased daily journalism here in Wyoming. Find out why Cowboy State Daily is considered Wyoming's largest and most experienced newsroom. All it takes is one visit, cowboystatedaily.com.
Your attention is precious. That's why Blue Cross Blue Shield of Wyoming works hard to make navigating your healthcare easier. Because having the right health insurance means not having to think about it, letting you focus on you. That's the benefit of Blue.
In Southwest Wyoming, wide open space is waiting. This is how we explore it. In Rock Springs and Green River, Wyoming. Plan your adventure at explorewy.com.
Three Crown Petroleum is a private oil and gas company that drills oil wells in Wyoming, adjacent states, and internationally. Three Crown is actively looking to lease minerals for drilling or to buy minerals, royalty, or existing production within Wyoming. To learn more about Three Crown, call or text Howard Cooper at 970-756-4747. Again, call or text Howard Cooper at Three Crown Petroleum, 970-756-4747.
Daily.com.
That's not the sound bed I wanted, but it'll work. Let's check in with Jimmy. I think I got it working. Jimmy Orr. Hi, Jimmy.
Hey, man. How are you?
What's going on?
Well, it's Jake in the morning, and so welcome. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I could sense your frustration at the beginning of the show.
I know. I'm so annoyed because I'll tell you why. On the software that I use to broadcast, in big giant red, I see when the connection is unstable or when my software is straining, let's say, and it's just red. And all I see is red this morning. I'm just so nervous about it. Ugh.
All right, so let me ask you this: you ordered a brand new, super powered computer. Will that fix it? Do you think?
Let's hope so. Yeah, it definitely will. And I might not have the settings right. It could be human error, but I doubt it. I think it's my machine. It's 10 years old, and it's,
And where you are, you don't get anything overnight. It takes a while. When are you supposed to get it?
I'm not allowed to disclose where I am, but I was supposed to get it yesterday. No sign of the UPS guy. So maybe today. And yeah, it can't come soon enough. So hopefully that cures our problems. But, people don't want to hear about our issues.
The other thing is this. Listen, this is our first run. This is our first day.
Yeah.
So everything we have a soft launch. So it's good. Everything's fine. And, what we're doing is unique and what we're doing is fun. And, that's been the history of Cowboy State Daily is we're gradual. We move up. We get better and better and better. So, if there's a technical glitch here or there, so be it. I like your hat.
Hey, thanks. There's going to be a lot of hat days because my hair is non-compliant at, 6 a.m. Hey, thanks, Sue Stillwell of Eagle Rock Road. She's took a great photo of the Medicine Bow National Forest between Cheyenne and Laramie. That's the sunrise photo of the day. If you subscribe to the Cowboy State Daily newsletter, you would see that. That leads the stories. What a great shot. One good thing about wildfires, Jimmy, gives you some great sunrises and sunsets. Red.
Yeah. Yeah, and where she is close to where I am. Cowboy State Daily is based in Cheyenne, and that's where we have a small team of people, but we're all over the state, and we meet, Jake, as you know, every morning at 8:30. That's where we do our budget call, our news meeting, and you ought to occasionally, your show ought to drop in and be a part of it. And what we can do is we can show people what we do in the morning at 8:30 when we go around the horn. And we've got a super enlarged Brady Bunch screen where it used to be an actual 9 people or so, and then the people in our office, and now it's blown out. I mean, it's like we get anywhere from 15 to 20 reporters from all over the state. And then we've got the core staff at what we call the barn here in Cheyenne. I'm at my house now, but that could be fun. You could drop in on the news meeting sometime.
Oh, man, just the technological. Yeah, I don't know if I'm ready for that. I'm barely doing what I'm doing, but that would be really cool. I've had people ask me all the time, like, oh, you write for Cowboy State Daily, you work for Cowboy State. Where are they? And I hesitate to say Cheyenne, because I say we're everywhere. Like, we're all over the place. And we all get together, for this morning meeting, but we're all over. And if we're not there, we'll get there as fast as we can.
Yeah, we've got people in all corners of the state now. And, we're still looking, too. We want to. We're always willing to grow.
Is this the help wanted ad?
Yeah, we've got. We are everywhere. So it's been a fun ride so far. That sunrise feature now is almost 4 years old, and that seems to be doing well. I noticed in the promo, and of course this would happen just as we say it. The Same Guys Dancing has been dropped to a weekly feature now.
Oh.
And, so there we go. It's every Sunday. It's a Sunday. It was time to rein it back in a bit. But anyway, so things are looking good from your end, and your show, Jake, is what? You're gonna have a lot of our reporters on.
I am. I want to. Yes. Especially because I think I'm like a lot of readers. I read the story and I have still more questions, or I want to talk about it. Maybe everything was answered by the reporter. Great. And that's the whole story. But a lot of times I read it and I'm like, the first thing I want to do is talk to somebody about it. And my wife is, she don't want to talk about news. So I will talk to the reporters. I'll say, did this really happen? I want to talk to Claire about this guy who shot somebody in the foot. And a lot going on this morning.
I'm more interested in the counterfeit story.
Yeah.
And
I like it.
That was bleaching the bills. And Mark always has a good story. Mark Hines has been our outdoors reporter for more than 2 years now. And Mark's a real deal. I mean, he's a hunter. He's an outdoorsman. He loves, in his time off, to chop down trees, except I guess you don't chop down trees anymore. He lectured us about that. You cut them down, or there's another word that you use.
Yeah.
Anyway, Mark's a real deal. For you to have a beat, as we call it, you got to know what's going on. Mark knows what's going on. He's a hunter. He's out there. And so Mark's got this story today, Jake, almost called you Mitch. I think I did call you Mitch, but I know Mitch is watching. Mitch is our superstar multimedia consultant that's helped us with everything that we've launched so far. So hello to Mitch. Also an aviation instructor. He's very well talented man. But Mark's got that story, Jake, about the that hunter outside of Pinedale that that was able to defend himself against that grizzly attack, but the gun, the pistol, jammed up.
Yeah. Nothing worse than having a grizzly on top of you and hearing click. Like, that's not the sound I was going for. I was going for big bang, click. And it was, that's scary. But he kept his wits. I do, well, I can talk about it later, but I do the same thing. And bear spray, and I have a 45. And the idea being a bear spray is really the most effective. I agree with the Game and Fish and all the experts. Bear spray is pretty good deterrent. You throw up a cloud of that, and there's very few grizzlies, and we're going to run through that. But in the case of, like, if you get one of those rogue grizzly bears, it just, he doesn't worry about the pepper spray, and he still gets on you. And his intent is to do more damage. Typically, grizzlies are going to make one contact, and, they're king of the forest. They don't have to prove anything. They're like, all right, man down, and they'll go back to the cub or back to their elk carcass. But in case you get that one, who just won't quit, you're going to put that muzzle right up under their chin, and hopefully you don't get a click. Yeah, I want to talk to Mark about that.
Yeah, and Mark explains in a story why that can happen. My question to you, Jake, is you live in grizzly country, and one of your neighbors is a famous guy.
Yeah.
You wrote about him, Gap Pucci.
He turned 89 yesterday, by the way. It was his birthday.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, happy birthday,
Gap.
Gap.
Story you have on him that you wrote a while back. Has he had his own grizzly encounters? Does he carry bear spray?
Yeah, he's had. No, he never. I mean, I think if this was when he was outfitting, was pre bear spray. No, he threw lead at him. He was an old time outfitter, but yeah, he's had encounters in the dark at night when, scary stuff.
Have you had them too?
Yeah, I've both black bear, which sometimes can be worse than grizzly. Black bear, a sub-adult black bear, he's 2 years old. He's kicked off his mom, and he's looking for his territory. And everywhere he goes, he gets beat up by other black bear. And he's kind of pissed, and he's scared. And there's nothing worse than a bear that's, it's like 200-pound black bear, but he's bigger than you. And he's mad, and he's scared, and he sees you, and yeah. And then, grizzly. And I've been a horseback on both encounters, and I'll tell you, the horse knows the difference between a black bear and a grizzly. When some people say, well, how do you tell the difference? And it's the hump, and it's the ears, and it's the horse you're riding. If the horse you're riding trots away, it's a black bear. If he leaves, if he shoots out from under you, it's a grizzly.
Huh. Well, Mark, speaking of Mark Hines, he had another story over the weekend about that horse that was on an elk hunting trip that just decided he was going to bail. And he left for 5 days. And he was able to, what was funny about that story, Jake, as you know, is when somebody found him outside of Bondurant, near you, the owner said, well, you can keep him. Put him to work.
Yeah.
He's got to learn his lesson.
Right. He's only a 2-year-old, which I'm surprised. That's young to be a pack horse because their bones aren't formed yet. But, I don't own the horse. They own the horse. And they raised him. They foaled him. They watched him hit the ground.
So, hey, Jake, let me ask you this. We've talked about it, obviously, when we decided let's have Jake do this. The thing is, you've done this for a long time. You've been in radio for a long time. You've been in journalism for a long time. You've had a fascinating career. You're a great writer. You are one of the most entertaining writers I've ever read. Your stories are fantastic.
Let me make sure I'm recording this. Hold on. Okay.
And so, what is the what are you going to do? What is your lineup every day? So how are you going to structure this? What is it? We've talked about it. 4 hours is a long time. You're a good talker. How do you do it?
Yeah, I don't know. I've done it, I've done it before. I had a sidekick, but, it's going to have to be all me. A lot of honey and tea, throat lozenges, and a lot of hot air from me. I don't know, but I'm thinking about a new segment where I'm going to be Judge Jake. But anyway, I don't know. I'll have lots of guests
calls?
on. Yeah, we're going to take calls, Zooms. Yeah, we're going to get feedback. There'll be a lot of segments, a lot of features. We'll still working out.
Well, the thing about Cowboy State Daily is obviously we have the largest newsroom. We have a lot of reporters, very talented reporters. I mean, really talented reporters who have been in the business for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And but we also have great columnists too. And so anywhere from Rod Miller, who is we call him Hot Rod Miller, Lightning Rod Miller.
Yep.
So you'll have our columnists on too.
How do you even find Rod Miller?
Well, the
Can
thing
you
with
give me
Rod Miller is
he finds
when
you.
he comes down to be on your show,
Yeah.
he'll either call you or he'll come down to the barn and we'll set him up so he can video conference with you. But because he can't video conference from home.
Mm.
I don't think he has any interest in learning how to do it.
No, I mean, he lives in a teepee. He lives in a yurt. And I'm sure he's probably got the equivalent of what I've got today for electronics. Oh, I'm so mad at this. I'm going to put my fist through the screen, but.
It looks good. I think it looks good.
All right. Okay, good. So I'm going to dive in. We're both in agreement on the top stories that we think. My favorite is the Bison. Is it facing the wrong way? We're going to talk about the guy who's printing his own money. If only. That's going to be my future, Jeff.
Mark on to talk about that. That schoolhouse, right?
Oh yes, I want to go back, and in case you missed it over the weekend, what a great story!
Fantastic story.
Yeah, and I want to do that. Yeah, we got a lot to get to.
We've expanded in a lot of ways, as you know, Jake. Your radio show, and but we have this videographer that we just brought in. It was just fantastic.
Yeah.
That video he did in Little Siberia is great.
And yeah.
In Rock Springs to do a feature story that you can ask him about it, but I think in a week or so he'll have that. That's a fascinating one, and I won't go into it. But anyway.
Yeah, he's legit. Riley Strand.
Yeah. Are you gonna have Andrew on to talk about the pumpkins? We're sponsoring that pumpkin drop.
I need him on for that because I don't really understand what's going on there. Because I'm confused by somebody grew a big giant pumpkin and then we dropped the pumpkin, but it's not the same one.
Every year they do that giant Wyoming pumpkin way off.
All right.
Jay Richards is the guy that runs it. And then after, to make it more fun, they hoist the biggest ones up by a 200 foot crane and then drop them onto something. So he's ruined an RV before, a car before, a piano before. And what's funny is they drop and they explode, and all of the kids then run out like it's Easter Sunday and scoop up parts of the pumpkin. Why? I don't know.
Pumpkin goo. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. So anyway, Riley is covering that. He'll be up for that event. It really is fun. It's a great community event. Worland is a wonderful community.
Yeah.
Worland is a fantastic place. We love Worland.
I love Worland.
And Jay Richard is the guy that puts that together. The thing about it is, you go to the little towns in Wyoming. I grew up in Wyoming, and I love every single town in Wyoming. You and I've talked about this before. You're going to do a feature on Wamsutter.
Yeah.
And I love going up to Niobrara County. I love Niobrara County. I love Lusk. And we just had a great feature on Manville and that truck stop up at Manville, the three sisters. but these little towns have wonderful people in them. And Jay Richard is kind of the community organizer in Worland, and he puts this on. He puts it on just to do it for the people of Wyoming, or the people of Worland in the basin, and Jay Richard would be fun to have on your show. But we have so many great little towns in Wyoming. And, we just hired Jackie Dorothy. She's been on for a couple months now. She's a historian. She did a story last week on the little town of Hyattville. And we've got all these great little towns in Wyoming. It's the best place to be.
Jay, I have an idea. If you've already decided, I know what to drop a pumpkin on, but you can drop it on this iMac when I'm done with it, like tomorrow.
Am I freezing up on you, Jake?
No, you're fine. I just down the line, I don't know. I just get, according to the stats I'm reading, it's probably shaky, but I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I just keep going.
One other thing, my question for you is: what we've purchased for some of our reporters is Starlink, because the internet service isn't great in some areas.
Yeah.
And Wendy now, the head of broadcast, who's the greatest news person in the state, she now has mobile Starlink. So when she travels, she'll be able to do her newscast, from Starlink, but on the road.
Yeah.
You got Starlink. Are you using Starlink now?
Yeah, I'm on Starlink, and it's rock solid. That's not the problem today. Yeah,
how was it putting it together?
Yeah, learning curve. Sometimes I wonder if I'm just OG and I can't do stuff anymore. Obviously, whenever I see a 14-year-old come in and just whiz bang do something on the internet, I'm like, oh, wow, maybe I'm just too old to. I'm trying to. It took a while to figure out Starlink, but I got it.
Did you get the mobile Starlink?
No, I got the. It's affixed to my cabin, and much to the landlord's dismay. He's like, "What the heck is that thing?" I'm
right,
like,
so
"Don't worry about it."
When you go out, you do basketball games, and you do football games.
Yeah.
You do play-by-play all over the state.
Yeah.
So when you go out and do those, is your morning show? Is that where you turn the morning show over to Andrew, or how do you do it?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Yeah,
We're figuring this out as we do it.
There'll be
We are
time.
lucky in that we have a
Yeah.
backup. Jake is the radio guy.
Yeah.
Andrew Rossi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully
So
he's
we're
got a
fortunate.
better computer than I do. Yeah, Andrew's going to cover me, and hopefully it won't be too often, or maybe viewers will say, hopefully it'll be more often. Yeah, like this Friday, I'm in Green River for a football game, but it's Friday night football, so I'll be here. I'll be fine. But there'll be times where I'm just sick of it all, Jimmy. And I say this knowing that you're my immediate superior. And I'm just going to have to call Andrew and say, you're on today, man. I can't do it. Yeah.
Of all the places that you travel to do your basketball or football or whatever, what's your favorite place to call a game?
Oh, man, they're all good. Cody, those other Bronx, which will give away who I call for. But yeah, Cody's fun. Buffalo, Sheridan, Evanston, the Red Devils.
That cool gym. Where was that cool gym? Was
Yeah, that's in Mountain View. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Evanston's probably the one place that's the craziest about their team. Go big, go red. They love their Red Devils in Evanston. I mean, they are sports people down there.
Yeah. Where have you traveled so far? How many games have there been? Like 5?
Yeah, for football, yeah, I think we're 5 in. Been to Buffalo. A lot of home games.
Well, speaking of sports, a person that you'll have to have on is Sally Ann Shermer. She's our columnist on Fridays.
I didn't, and I wouldn't have wanted to contact her until just last weekend because we're 0-4. She's the biggest Cowboys fan, and the Pokes were just miserable. And I'm going to talk about that. I can solve Wyoming's problems in like a few seconds. Me and Sally could fix the Cowboys like that. But they did get a win over Air Force. So now it's okay to talk to her. Before, it would have been like crying in our coffee kind of a conversation. But yeah.
Well, if there's one person that knows football, it's Sally Ann. You know, her dad was the famed football coach, Fritz. And she's got a real history. She knows football.
Yeah.
And she lives by Wyoming Cowboys, so she'll be great. And so thankfully Wyoming got a win.
I'm going to make note to self because I do want to talk about the Cowboys.
Listen, you can kick me off at any time, of course. But Jen Coker, our writer Jen Coker, has a great feature coming up. So we got to get her on the show too.
Okay.
A great feature coming up.
Coming to you, Jen, soon.
Yeah.
Jen, Mark, I want to talk to Andrew Pumpkins. Mark, about what happens when your gun doesn't go bang when you're wrestling a grazing. And we also want to talk to him about that great story he did on a place called Little Siberia in Wyoming. Middle of nowhere, Wyoming. Whenever you say that, it could be anywhere. There's a lot of places that are middle of nowhere, but this place truly is, and there's nothing more Wyoming, screams Wyoming, than a one-room schoolhouse. I mean, this little house on the prairie in 2024. It's crazy. What a story.
Do you have Mark scheduled yet for today?
He's lifting weights right now, probably, but I'm going to zoom right in. I'm going to be intrusive. I'm going to find him.
Yeah, I know he's lifting weights. He does that early in the morning.
Yeah.
I drink coffee. He lifts weights.
Which is probably 2 chainsaws the way he does.
Yep. Yep.
All right, I'm going to do a weather check and take a quick break here. And we'll scare up some Cowboy State Daily reporters, learn more about the news, and dive deep next hour. What do you say?
Yeah, congrats, Jake. Thrilled that we're doing this. I'm just really happy. Love it.
Cool.
All right, man.
All right, thank you.
See ya.
Big things. That's Jimmy Orr. He's like the guy at Cowboy State Daily. The buck stops at his desk. And he's the boss of me. And we mentioned some stories that we're going to get to later today. But I want to start with the fires because that's what's got most people worried. I mean, the wildfires are the story of the day. But first, let's real quick check in with Don Day's weather forecast, if I got that worked out right. And remember, all these things to me are, just trying to figure it out. But Don Day's going to stop in with us live at 7:20 in the next hour. We'll talk statewide weather forecast. But here is Don Day joining us with.
Well, after a little bit of fall-like weather yesterday with much cooler temperatures across the state, we're going to start to see temperatures go back up again. And still, I'm afraid to say, there's no precipitation in sight. Things are extremely dry. Fire dangers are extreme. And we're in a pattern where we're cut off from any good supply of moisture, either from the Pacific or coming up from the south. And although we're going to see some fluctuations in temperatures over the course of the next 5 to 7 days, the swings in temperature won't be big. And the chances of moisture through the weekend, very low.
Thanks, Don. And that is worrisome. And that is, to me, and I'll talk to Don about it when I have him live, but that is weird. I mean, obviously, we're in an extended summer. Obviously, this is an Indian summer. Is it okay to say that? I don't know if it's politically correct, but it's October 1st, and we're hitting 7. Look at Casper after a morning free. Casper's runs the gamut of weather today. Congratulations, Casper. You start the day freezing. You have a freeze warning till 9. Then you have a fire watch from noon to 9 p.m. You've got areas of smoke, partly cloudy, and oh yeah, there's going to be wind gusts of 24 miles an hour. And the high in Casper today, 77. And that's kind of what we're looking at is upper 70s throughout the state, low 70s in the western part of Wyoming, but sun and dry and unfortunately a little bit windy, especially up there in Buffalo, Sheridan. You got that elk fire just banging away right on the outskirts of Dayton. That is nerve-wracking for you folks in Dayton, I know. Yeah, it's tough. And no relief. So I want to talk to Don about whether the weather usually does this. You know, most of us have been in Wyoming a while. September can have these really beautiful fall days. And September is usually pretty dry. Monsoonal moisture is done and out of the way in August. And September can be crisp and dry and precip free, but it's the warm, the sunny and 70s and wind. You remember, I sort of remember, I can't believe how many years it was ago, the 1988 wildfires in Yellowstone. I think there were 19 different fires, 1988 Yellowstone. So much of that park burned. You know what finally put it out? It's not firefighters. It was weather, snow in September. I think it was September, I want to say early September, September 9th or so. I'll have to look that up. But it was September. And firefighter, the old adage that anybody will tell you, I've had meteorologists tell me this. I've had IC incident commanders of wildland fires tell me this. The old adage is you don't put a wildfire out, you just throw money at it till it snows. And that's kind of true. These fires are so big, helicopter bucket drops of water aren't going to put them out. Slurry bombs are going to maybe slow it from getting somewhere, but, they go until it snows. And typically you can count on some of those snowy, ugly days to start showing up in September. And there was a couple that slowed the growth of the Fish Creek fire going back a week or so ago. But now, look, we're just lately been 80 and sunny every day with some wind. A little bit better. I'm going to see the latest on the Fish Creek fire as I look at InciWeb, and I'm going to try to share this with you. This is what my computer really does not like. Give me a second. It's going to get real angry about this. I know it though. Let's see. Yeah, he didn't even want to do it. Well, it was a good idea. InciWeb is the website where you go to check on all kinds of wildfires. Pack Fire is at 17,000 acres. That's been reduced a little bit. New reconnaissance flights have reduced that a little. The Pack Trail Fire is the fire that's kind of joining forces with the Fish Creek Fire, which is at legit 25,000 acres. If those two connect and hook up, yeah, it's just Brooks Lake Lodge. That's what we're worried about there, historic old lodge. And the 25,000 acre elk fire, still at 25K and threatening Dayton. So I know the fire on Togety, the Fish Creek fire, was slowed a little bit. The Forest Service was saying that was encouraging a little bit moderate fire behavior yesterday. It was cooler. You heard Don Day say a little bit of a cool off. So that was fortunate. But looking at the 8-day forecast headed, into the next week, it's just not encouraging for wildfire. It's going to be really tough. And let's remember all our wildland firefighters out there. What a job they do. It's tough, tough work. Brutal work. and doing what they can to save historic Brooks Lake Lodge, the Pinnacle summer homes. Most people are out of there by now, but yeah, I think there's already structures been lost in the Elk fire as well. So we'll talk fires, another weather forecast, and then I want to dive right into the first story in 7 o'clock hour is the bison. Is our state flag backwards? Good indication it might be.
It's time to take a look at what's happening around Wyoming for Tuesday, October 1st. From the Cowboy State Daily Newsroom, I'm Wendy Core. Residents of Dayton woke up Monday morning to what some described as an apocalyptic scene. Billowing smoke blotted out the sky, created by what's been named the Elk Fire, which is burning a few miles northwest of the small town in northern Sheridan County. Cowboy State Daily's Renee Jean reports that Dayton's school was closed Monday morning, and some locals were already packing up their things just in case they need to evacuate.
It's really grown fast. It went from 27 acres to like over 6,700 overnight.
Meanwhile, residents near the historic Brooks Lake Lodge in the Bridger Teton National Forest, although weary from battling the stubborn 25,000-acre Fish Creek fire all summer, are on alert. Renee Jean reports that wind picked up speed over the weekend, breathing life into the Pack Trail fire that began September 15th.
Over the weekend, this high Wyoming wind found a lightning strike had hit deep in some timbered area that's very inaccessible. And just basically overnight, suddenly the Pack Trail fire roared into life, consumed like almost 20,000 acres as of Monday morning. Brooks Lake Lodge is under new evacuation orders, along with Lava Mountain Lodge, the KOA campground, a couple of ranches in the area.
The complex incident management team that had been managing the Brooks Lake Lodge fire protection plan, as well as the Fish Creek fire, has rotated out, and a new Type 3 incident management team has rotated in. Allowing people to run over wolves and other predators with snowmobiles makes Wyoming look barbaric. That's what protesters of the practice told state legislators Monday at the Capitol. Even so, Cowboy State Daily's Mark Hines reports that the Wyoming Legislature's Joint Travel, Recreation, Wildlife, and Cultural Resources Committee voted to forward a bill that would allow that to continue.
It does not ban the practice of running predatory animals down with a snowmobile or any other vehicle, but it stipulates that if you're going to do that, you have to make every reasonable effort to kill the animal as quickly as possible. If you don't do that, you could face up to $1,000 fine and or 6 months in jail. And then also an amendment that was just added today would, you could possibly lose hunting and fishing privileges for up to 3 years for doing that.
The bill and the objections against it are the latest in the continuing ripple effects of the reported capture, torture, and killing of a wolf in Daniel, Wyoming in February. I'll be back with more news right after this.
Did you know it's illegal to dig or excavate without knowing what's below? This is Jan Warren, Executive Director for One Call of Wyoming. We will be hosting workshops around the state to educate homeowners, realtors, landscapers, underground facility owners, and excavators on the state law, industry best practices when it comes to planting a tree, building a fence, or any other excavation project you have planned. Join us for a free breakfast, get your questions answered, and learn how One Call of Wyoming is here to help. Go to onecallofwyoming.com and register today.
Natrona County Schools and Casper Police Department officials Monday were trying to ease fears and frustrations from residents and parents about an online threat over the weekend that a student allegedly planned to kill people at noon on Monday. Cowboy State Daily's Dale Killingbeck reports that a screenshot of the online threat was posted anonymously to a social media group and said that a particular student was threatening multiple people and children's lives on September 30th at 12.
Parents had all kinds of concerns. There were concerns about, not sending their kids to school. There was concerns from parents that they were not communicated with, that they learned about it on the police department Facebook page. There was concerns just about the ongoing violence among young teens.
The threat follows on concerns related to young people being violent with weapons, including 2 murders earlier this year committed outside of school, but all involving district students. And Nathan Frederick had just put $700 into fixing up a used truck for his DoorDash delivery job when something completely unexpected happened. His vehicle caught fire. But Wyoming is a special place. Cowboy State Daily's Renee Jean reports that before emergency vehicles could respond, passersby had taken action.
He was like flooded with Wyomingites who were passing him fire extinguishers and jugs of water and helping him put out this fire that had started in his truck.
Frederick said that times like these make newcomers like him glad they live in Wyoming, where there's always a cowboy or two willing to go an extra mile to help a stranger in need. And that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting the daily newsletter button on cowboystatedaily.com. I'm Wendy Core for Cowboy State Daily.
From Yellowstone to Devil's Tower, the Bighorn Mountains to the Teton Range, Cheyenne to Sheridan, Rawlins to Ralston, Cowboy State Daily Morning Show covers the state like no other radio show or podcast. We love Lovell. We're eager to share the stories of Story Will Crow About Crowheart and Yodel Over Yoder. Whether you make your home in Sweetwater, Chugwater, Powder River, or Green River, the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show will make you feel right at home. Jeffrey City, Atlantic City, we see you. Little America, Big Piney, you're on our radar. Howdy, Wapiti, Meeteetse, Shoshone, 10 Sleep, good morning. Welcome, Torrington, Riverton, Wheatland, Lusk, Lingle, Lander, Timber, Casey, Kerwin, Moorcroft, Mountain View, Moose, Fort Bridger, Fort Laramie, Fort Washington, Hannah, Hudson, Hewlett, Dayton, Daniel, and DuBois. We are east of Weston, west of Midwest, north of Newcastle, and south of Sundance. Border to border, we love Wyoming and every one of its communities, bar none. Back live in studio, Cowboy State Daily Morning Show. I have not reached out to Mark Hines, who wrote the story for Cowboy State Daily about the big meeting over running over wolves. I still can't believe, as an advanced culture, as supposedly intelligent beings, we have to have legislative and all kinds of meetings in Cheyenne about whether it's okay to run over a wolf, or as Mark Hines would say, a wolf. Just run over them wolves. You can do it. Also, you can run over coyotes. Yeah. Anything considered a predatory animal, you just run them over. And I'm not trying to be like, some woke greenie. I'm as Wyoming redneck as anybody. I hunt, I understand, like, if you're a rancher and you got a wolf that's a problem, I'm all about the 3 S's: shoot, shovel, and shut up. You got a wolf that's eating your stock, and I know why the state will compensate you, and you have somebody come and vet. I'm fine with the old school way. If this wolf can't learn and he's eating your calves, bang, problem solved. I'm fine with that. That's humane. That's reasonable. And that's Wyoming. If there's people, I know we have a lot of listeners, viewers, readers, fans of Cowboy State Daily that are not from Wyoming, and we love to be a way you stay in touch with Wyoming. Maybe you're an expat and you live out of state now. Get back as soon as you can. Or maybe you've never been here and you're just, maybe one day it's on your bucket, your dream, like, oh, we could move to Wyoming. Maybe you're out of country and you're wondering, what is this Wyoming cowboy state? And maybe you're from somewhere where, there's just never been wolves in your life. you're in downtown Detroit. You never had to worry about a wolf or a different kind of wolf in Detroit. So I get it that maybe you know, not everybody is hip to how you handle predatory animals that want to eat your assets or your cat or your dog, your horse that just fold. Like, yeah, there's wolves at the door in Wyoming, knocking at the door. And if they become a problem for you or him or her, you know, problem solved. Thank you, Smith & Wesson. But to go out of your way to run down a wolf in deep snow with your snowmobile and just run it over so it's injured to the point that you can tape its mouth shut and then bring him to the local bar and show him off to your buds. We crossed the line there. Something went wrong there. And it does not look good on Wyoming. I'll tell you that. Not that I'm worried all the time about how Wyoming plays to West Hollywood. Don't care. But it's not a good look for anybody. What went down in Daniel. And that's what's brought renewed interest in Wyoming laws. And many people were surprised to learn that it's totally okay and legit to run a wolf or a coyote to exhaustion and then dispatch it, not quickly and humanely, but just run it over a couple of times, have fun with it, bring it out to the bar for a few beers. That's all okay, I guess, in Wyoming. So maybe that needs to change. And there was a big old state legislators met Monday at the Capitol, the Wyoming legislature's Joint Travel, Recreation, Wildlife, Cultural Resources. I would share this page with you, but I'm just afraid, you know, this is day one of our radio cast, and I'm really having problems sharing pages. It's what makes my computer angry. My computer has been angry all morning. Yeah, so I can try it, or I may just do away with it. But the idea is one day we'll be able to. I'm sharing it now. If you're watching, here's the story. Here's the photo of people that we're meeting. Usually I would imagine if it wasn't for the Daniel Wolf incident, the meeting would be a lot less attended and a lot less controversial. But as Mark Hines points out, you can see it here, the world is watching for sure. And so far, we haven't come up with a solution. Consensus is we're not ready to say you can't run over wolves. And by the way, you can blow them up with dynamite if you want. If you find a wolf den, you can put a stick of dynamite in there and blow them up. That's okay too. I don't know. I got some problems with it. I remember once I did a story on wolves and coyotes, predatory dogs, and it's a fact that the more you kill them, the more they keep coming back. Especially coyotes. Proven fact that if you hound them, excuse the pun, but if you attempt to exterminate a coyote, you know what the female coyote does when she gets pregnant? She has more pups. If she's stressed and you're making life difficult for her, she'll have a litter of 5 instead of 2. The more you persecute coyotes and wolves, any wildlife biologist will tell you this, the more you try to stomp them out, the more they'll come back. It's just how they're built. So you're not doing yourself any favors. Running down wolves, thinking you're going to get rid of them. Doesn't work that way. Don Day's coming up in about 5 minutes. So do we have time to talk about the No, I want to save the bison. We have enough time maybe to talk about what's wrong with the Wyoming Cowboys. Now, don't leave just because I'm talking about sports. Because I like to think I make sports interesting for people who don't like sports, and I understand not everybody does. Especially chicks. Did I say that out loud? Actually, my niece, my 18-year-old niece, knows more about the Yankees than I'll ever know. So that's not true. There are some people who don't like sports of any gender. And to you, I say, what's wrong with you? No, to you, I say, when I talk about sports, I'm going to do it in a way that it's going to be interesting for people that don't like sports. Because ultimately, sports boils down to the human interest, people. Same thing as politics, arts and entertainment, anything you could talk about. Really, what makes it interesting is it's about us. People. And that's what's interesting. You know, I'm a people. You're a people. You right there, you're probably a people. And I say this with the full knowledge of having been to a Walmart at 2 a.m. You know, one of those supercenter Walmarts that's open 24/7. I've been to a Walmart at 2 in the morning. And I'm not positive we're all people. I have my doubts. You know, standing in front of you at the DMV, not sure we're all people. I visited personally the booking facility at the Broward County, Florida booking facility. I was booked into a holding cell. That's a story for another day. So, yeah, I'm not sure we're all people, but let's say for the sake of argument, we're all people. That's why I think we can make sports interesting for you. So, the Cowboys start the season 0-4. They finally get a win over Air Force. The problem begins with the change in leadership. Jay Salville, I got no problem with Jay. He's probably going to work things out and be a good coach. But when you're following Craig Bohl was the coach previously, and he put his influence, he put his stamp on the Wyoming Cowboys. Real blue-collar work ethic. The Cowboys didn't do a lot offensively. They just played good defense and prayed that you ran out of gas in Laramie because, you know, they're at 5 million feet above sea level. Everybody's sucking air by the second half. That was the Cowboys' theory on how to win. Just keep it simple offensively. Don't do anything crazy, and then play good defense. And I'm not sure we're carrying that tradition on with Jay Salville. And I'll tell you, the first indication I get is he lets Evan Swoboda, the new quarterback, wear the number 17. Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills NFL superstar quarterback, came from Wyoming, if you didn't know this, and he wore the 17. And they don't retire numbers at the collegiate level. Wyoming does not retire numbers, but man, if you're going to wear the 17, you got a real set of, just for Evan Swoboda to say, I want to wear the 17. That should have stopped right there with the guy who assigns numbers. Who is that guy? You know, the guy who's in charge of giving you your number for your uniform. And Evan Swoboda says, I'm going to be 17. I don't think so, kid. Let that number cool off for a little while, okay? It was a guy named Josh Allen who wore 17. You're not Josh Allen. Pick another number. You don't need that extra burden on you. And if I'm Jay Salvo, the coach, you know, there's no way I let my quarterback wear number 17. I say, look, kid, you're going to have enough problems. It's going to be very difficult. Let's drop in with, I think we got Don Day. I'm hoping we got Don Day. We're going to get to him at 7:20 every morning that Don Day's available, and we're going to talk weather. And I'm just waiting for him to join us. But yeah, as you heard him say, top of the hour, last hour, just going to be so difficult for firefighters. Weather is just not behaving. So, yeah, let's see if we can get to Don. There he is. Hi, Don Day. How are you? I'm trying to help you come out. You with us? Don doesn't hear us? Oh, there you are.
So I didn't have my speaker on. Sorry about that.
You're tricking me. I mean, I'm having my own issues, believe me, but you may be even more nervous that I didn't have something worked out right. All right, so yeah, we heard you, with the weather roundup, just statewide, border to border. I mean, a little bit of a cool down yesterday. What was that? Is that a gift from Canada? And why didn't it have any rain involved?
Have them come in with precipitation, but Western Canada is not a really wet place, and a lot of times these fronts come through and they lose their moisture over the Canadian Rockies. In fact, satellite photos show a lot of snow over the Canadian Rockies right now, but these fronts just aren't able to bring us any moisture. They're bringing some pockets of cool air at times, but that's it. The air is really dry, very low humidity air.
Which, I mean, typically in fall, once monsoonal moisture is out of the way in August, typically in fall, September is pretty dry usually, right? I mean, that's kind of normal.
Yeah, in Wyoming, in this region, the wettest months of the year are March to August. That's when you see the highest amount of precipitation. In fact, the large majority of the precipitation that falls happens during those months. Once you get into September through February, it's a sliding scale. So you each month you get less amounts of precipitation, at least on the plains, from September to February, then it reverses again. So having dry periods this time of year is not unusual, although this one, boy, has got some legs, and the timing is awful because with the fire situation, as dry as it was this summer in parts of Wyoming, I'm kind of on pins and needles because we are not in a situation where if we have other fires pop up, it's going to be 2 weeks or so before the weather really helps.
Really? Like that? I know I saw, your week forecast, your 8-day, your 10-day. I don't know how far out you feel comfortable going, but yeah, it looked like sunny, warm, like warmer than typically. It's October 1st and we're talking upper 70s for pushing 80 in some places, and you throw in a little wind and we already got, Don, we need relief. I don't want to put it all on you because come ski season, Jackson Hole is going to need you to make it rain, baby. And then I mean snow by that. But can you do anything to help us with these wildfires?
Oh, I wish I could, and despite, some conspiracy theories out there about weather modification, we just, no one's cued me in on how that works or how we could just flip a switch and change things. But let's talk a little bit about, these patterns. When we get into a pattern, we call this a blocking pattern. There's a big low stuck up in the North Pacific, south of Alaska, that's stuck. And when you have a big low to your west, you're going to be under a big high pressure. And so we're in these blocking patterns that can be very persistent, especially in a La Nina, which we're in right now. But the thing to remember is that the way the weather works across the globe, where there's one extreme, there's the other. So we've got a very cold, wet, stormy pattern in Alaska, up in the North Pacific, while we're warm and dry here. It's the opposite. But when the blocking pattern breaks, okay, things do a 180. So what'll happen later this month and into early November is that weather that's up there will end up being more common down here. So we see the writing on the wall that some pretty big changes at the end of October, early November are coming. Now, you would expect that, right, as you change seasons, but I think it's going to be rather robust. But it's 2 weeks for this pattern to evolve, to change. So they're stubborn. These blocking patterns are stubborn and they take a while. So we just kind of have to get through the next couple of weeks, then help is on the way.
A little bit coolish yesterday for most of the state. Kind of made you feel like it was fall. You have fall colors. Finally, the elk hunters could get out there and they're not sweating in their camo and they're not worried that if they knock an elk down, the meat's going to spoil because it's 80 degrees out. But yeah, we're kind of trending back up. What's the statewide weather forecast for today and the next couple?
Yeah, really, what we're as you mentioned earlier, we're going to see temperatures go back up again. 70s and 80s will be very commonplace through the weekend. We're going to see some ups and downs because these Canadian cold fronts are going to go across Canada. The one yesterday cooled us off. We're going to have another cool down on Thursday. It's going to warm up Friday and Saturday. We'll have another cool down Sunday. But with these cool downs, we're just not going to get anything in the way of any significant precipitation out of them. So we're also going to have wind. And this is what really gives me heartburn because these fronts going across Canada, not only do they send cooler air down, which is nice, but they make the wind pick up. So we're going to have these episodes of wind, and we're going to see the wind pick up tonight and tomorrow. It'll lay down Thursday. It'll pick up again Saturday into Sunday. So those are the real critical fire situations, the high fire danger situations that we have to avoid. So I really urge folks, we're not expecting any lightning. We're not expecting any thunder. If we're going to get new fires started, it's probably going to be human caused, or it might be a smoldering lightning strike that happened 2 or 3 weeks ago. So this is where we got to really, really be smart about things. Do you really need a campfire? Can you get away with it? That's those situations. And keep in mind, there's going to be fire restrictions in some areas of the state as well.
Yeah, I think some people just don't understand how easily a fire can get away from you. Yeah, you hunters, that warming fire, I know, it's cold, but yeah. And maybe that's the one good thing about it being fall, it being October. We will hit 80s, but you're only there for like 40 minutes, maybe. It seems like it takes all day to get there. And we do have frost warnings in the morning, and these fires will lay down a little bit at night when we get nice, cool overnights. But yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, it is. And we're now at the point where we are now having longer dark than light. So the days are really getting shorter. And that's what really is going to be the impetus to make this pattern change. Up in those higher latitudes, you think the days are shorter here now. You go up to Calgary, you go up to the higher latitudes in Northwest Canada and Alaska, the days are really getting short. And that builds up the cold air. That starts to get the process going. That will change the seasons for good. But right now, summer, an extended summer pattern is going to go here into the first 2 weeks of October.
That's Don Day, a balloon expert and a pretty good meteorologist. Day weather forecast will come up a little later in the hour. Don, thanks for spending time with us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jake. Have a good day.
Do you know it's illegal to dig or excavate without knowing what's below? This is Jan Warren, Executive Director for One Call of Wyoming. We will be hosting workshops around the state to educate homeowners, realtors, landscapers, underground facility owners, and excavators on the state law, industry best practices when it comes to planting a tree, building a fence, or any other excavation project you have planned. Join us for a free breakfast, get your questions answered, and learn how One Call of Wyoming is here to help. Go to onecallofwyoming.com and register today.
When life is overwhelming, Wyoming Behavioral Institute can make a difference. We provide specialized outpatient mental health care for ADHD, depression, anxiety, stress, and other life-affecting issues. We offer a part-time virtual program for teens and in-person and virtual mental health services for children, teens, and adults. Visit WBIHelp.com today to learn more. With limited exceptions, physicians are not employees or agents of this facility.
Yellowstone to Devil's Tower, the Bighorn Mountains to the Teton Range, Cheyenne to Sheridan, Rawlins to Ralston, Cowboy State Daily Morning Show covers the state like no other radio show or podcast. We love Lovell. We're eager to share the stories of Story Will Crow About Crowheart and Yodel Over Yoder. Whether you make your home in Sweetwater, Chugwater, Powder River, or Green River, the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show will make you feel right at home. Jeffrey City, Atlantic City, we see you. Little America, Big Piney, you're on our radar. Howdy, Wapiti, Meeteetse, Shoshone, Ten Sleep, good morning, welcome, Torrington, Riverton, Wheatland, Lusk, Lingle, Lander, Timber, Casey, Kerwin, Moorcroft, Mountain View, Moose, Fort Bridger, Fort Laramie, Fort Washington, Hannah, Hudson, Hewlett, Dayton, Daniel, and DuBois. We are east of Weston, west of Midwest, north of Newcastle, and south of Sundance. Border to border, we love Wyoming and every one of its communities, bar none. Back in studio, Cowboy State Daily Morning Show with Jake, and we're going to drop in with Greg and see what's going on. I think, well, I better not think. Greg, what are we talking about?
I think we're probably talking about fires.
Okay, I could do that. Yeah, we just heard from Don Day. Unfortunately, I don't want to throw Don under the bus or heap too much blame on him, but he is not helping with the weather forecast. It's that I did not realize that elk fire, let's start there. I didn't realize that was such a big thing. We talked about it at a news meeting the other day, and I looked and I thought, hey, it's just a small, it's not, doesn't seem to be. And then, pow, Renee told us it blew up. It sure did. Man.
Yeah, it wasn't a big thing to start. It was only like 27 acres at one point on Friday. And then it is hot and dry, but the thing that's just killing them with the fires is the wind. The wind picks up, it blows it up. It changes direction and blows it in different ways. So it was blowing it toward Dayton, that elk fire. And then yesterday, the reports from the fire managers up there is that the wind it cooled down a little bit. The wind backed off a little bit. They're expecting the wind to kind of come up today from the other way. So it'll kind of help a little bit that way. They say.
Yeah. And if I could dare share a screen view, and I don't dare because it'll blow up my machine. But if you can picture this, the elk fire, to take the elk fire to Dayton, it would have to travel somewhat southeast. And typically the wind patterns in Wyoming are blowing out of the southwest to the northeast. So Dayton, if the wind did what it usually does, Dayton would be relatively safe. Just watch the smoke go by. But you're right. The other day, it was blowing like it didn't do what it was supposed to, and Dayton got all worried. But yeah, maybe the favorable winds or no winds would be better.
Yeah, and that's kind of like why when we had that Remington fire that started in Sheridan County, but then it blew up miles up into Montana.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what they're expecting here. But some of the chatter now, people around the state, people in the areas of these fires. Because this fire was discovered Friday, and then they know that the Pack Trail fire was actually started like around September 15th from a lightning strike, and it just kind of smoldered in there. And so people are wondering, why do we let them get big and then become a problem? Why not just go in and get them? And the answer is in a lot of ways. There's no way to really know. I mean, they can estimate this is when it started, but they don't know for sure that it started and it's in a particular spot. It can be very rugged territory that you can't get to. And in the case of the Pack Trail fire, where it's so much dense, dead underbrush there. It could just, it literally can just smolder there for weeks and weeks until the fire pops it up and you don't really know it's there. Kind of like if you don't put out your campfire correctly, you know, it can just sit there for a while until something kicks it up. So, you know, people are frustrated because there's been a lot of fires this fire season, especially in the northern part of the state. And so now they're starting to wonder about fire management. Those are questions that happen when you have really busy fire seasons.
Comes up again, yeah. And after Yellowstone fires of 1988, supposedly we learned how to adopt somewhat of a let burn policy, especially if it was a so-called good fire, if it was a fire that had some benefit, because you're seeing the Pack Fire and the Fish Creek Fire right now starting to move into an area that is previous burn scar. The Lava Creek Fire, that's an old fire, I think 2006 or something. So when it hits stuff that already burned, that slows it down. So there is an argument to be made for letting stuff go if no assets are threatened. Especially this fire's I've been in there. I've hunted in there. I've camped in there. It's gnarly. And there's a lot to burn. Pine tree wise, but no structures really. And for this thing to be able to get to the highway and threaten Brooks Lake, that's a huge jump. No one could have ever thought that, I don't think, in the beginning for Fish Creek Fire. And then it looks like Pack Creek is going to join it. Maybe.
Yeah. And talking to some of these emergency management teams and things, especially things like interstates, big highways, those are almost always good fire breaks because it's extremely difficult for a fire to jump those. And for the to jump those, I mean, it surprises these guys that it's that volatile.
Yeah.
But you talk about the let it burn policies. That's been a controversial thing for years. You know, I've covered wildfires for nearly 30 years in different states. And when the let it burn policies came up, it was controversial. And the argument is we're so proactive on these fires. Something starts, we put it out. Lightning starts, or we put it out. And there's an argument that, nature needs to burn through some of that buildup. And the more that we put it out, it just builds up and up and up until it's just a powder keg and there's no way to stop it if it starts burning.
You set yourself up for the big one, right? Well, what do you say to the bumper stickers and the memes that say log it or lose it? What do you think about the logging industry? Should we do more logging and get some benefit out of these trees?
I don't know. I'm not a forest manager. I'm not really trained in that area. So I'm not anti-logging. I think if it's legitimate economic pursuit, let's let's do it. But at the same time, if you don't, it does build up. I guess it depends on how you log. I wouldn't be for clear cutting stuff, but that's part of that buildup of undergrowth. I think in the Pack Trail area, I think there's some beetle kill that's in there too. And so there's an argument to be made that when that happens, how aggressive do you need to be in like clearing that out after the fact? So there's a lot to it, and nobody has a perfect answer. And the reality is it just like the energy, just like energy, it booms and busts with wildfires. Last year, our whole fire season only was about 44,000 acres in the whole northeast part, and now it's like 600,000 this year. So it just cycles through.
Yeah. We're talking with Cowboy State Daily managing editor Greg Johnson, who typically, when I speak with him, it's usually something like, you can't spell worth a dang, Jake. He's usually editing my stories, telling me, everything that's wrong with it. One last thing. Tell me about how you're marshaling the resources of reporters to cover these fires. We got, they're hour drive, hours apart driving wise. We got one at the northern end of the Bighorns. That's the Elk fire. And then we got the Togetty Pass fire. Are we sending reporters there? Are we getting somebody, how do you cover it?
Well, it depends on the situation. We're a little short staffed now, so we don't have anybody up there for the elk fire. I've covered a lot of them from here. You can get a lot as long as you're connecting with the fire marshals, you're connecting with the people there. You can get a lot of stories. But we've had people out there. We had a reporter out. We've had 2 reporters out covering the big house draw fire there in Johnson County. We had the first story about Herod Hageman's family place burning down.
Yeah,
with that, and then just last weekend, I think Renee had a good story, a follow up with a rancher who just lost tens of thousands of acres of his land, and so yeah, it's a combination. We do it from where we're at, but we also send people out all over the state. And, we had that fire near Thermopolis, and Jackie is in that area, so she was out there getting stuff on that fire. So, I spent a long time in Gillette, so I know the firefighters there, so it's just all about marshaling the best bang for your buck, basically for reporting it.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to come home with wood smoke smell on your clothes. You don't have to get that close to cover a fire. You can do it remotely. But yeah, I would like to see a little more attention on the elk fire. I know people up there, Dayton's not a huge town. But it looks bad. I look at those photos, man, that looks scary.
Yeah. The photos from every fire are that way.
Yeah.
They're scary. There's the short draw fire up in Campbell County just before that one. It was the same thing. In fact, I had contact with the family there who left, and they came back and found their whole place burned out. Just heartbreaking. And they have a child in a wheelchair. Just 2 weeks earlier, they had finally got enough money and finished building a wheelchair ramp for him. And then it burns down. So there's some real people affected by these.
Well, all right. We are going to keep, I say we, Cowboy State Daily will keep an eye on all these fires, let you know what's going on. We hope to be your source for up-to-date, latest. And, a wildfire, one last thing, Greg, and give a shout out to the way Cowboy State Daily is built to cover news. Fires, in a newspaper the next morning in print, that's old news. Fires are moving so fast. We talked about the elk fire, how fast it gained in size. Yesterday's news is yesterday's news. Last hour's news is last hour. How up to date can Cowboy State Daily be with these wildfires and able to pivot in real time and tell people what's going on?
Pretty good. A lot of these fires will put up our, in the morning after we've gathered whatever the information is, we'll put up, where are we with it now? And then throughout the day, as things change, we'll update it and we'll put it at the top, tell people the story has been updated to reflect this, it changes the acres. They've ordered some new evacuations. They're letting people go home. All that stuff, we will update those. And then if it's something really significant, we'll do a news story, a news story on it. So, a lot of those fire stories, you'll go in and you'll see several updates on it, and it's easy to see how the updates have progressed too with the story.
Well, we're going to change gears, talk to something a little more uplifting than the wildfires, but stay on them, Greg. Thanks. Appreciate you spending time with us.
Thanks, Jake. Love the new show.
Hey, thanks, buddy. It'll get better.
Yeah, you got to feed your cat or something, man. Because I was looking
Did
around
you-
and my cat was having a fit. Took me forever to realize it was your cat.
Right. And it's not even, I will explain this to our viewers as the days and weeks go by, but it's not even my cat. It's just some neighborhood cat that he's half wild. He thinks he lives here. He's adopted me. Yeah. I'll work on it.
Okay.
Thanks, buddy.
Well, keep it up, man.
All right.
Jake in the morning, Cowboy State Daily.
Oh, that cat. Yeah. I want to talk about, something a little more uplifting. The bison flag, the state flag. This is an interesting story to me. Maybe not to anyone else, but I love this story because I really do love history. Renee Jean found this story, and the headline is the Wyoming flag bison? Is the Wyoming flag bison? Well, you know what I mean. The Wyoming state flag is the bison. Is he facing the wrong way? The creator's granddaughter says yes. Verna Keys designed the state flag, the buffalo, the bison, to be facing away from the pole. And I had to stop and think for a minute, like, what's the pole? Oh, yeah, the flag is going to be flown on a pole. So let's just say left or right for a minute. And I want to share. Oh, do I dare share this screen? I'm going to try. It's probably going to be bad. Let's see. Yeah, I think we can do it. There it is. I finally got it to work. So there is this is the designer on the left, Verna Keys, designed the flag. She came up with the artwork. Now, as you can see, the bison is facing right. Or as I prefer to say, he's facing east. I think that's the more significant part. Whether they're, and for Verna, it was whether the bison is facing the pole or not. And I think she's got a point with the fact that in her design, the bison is pointed right. He's facing right. He's facing east, which if you run him up the flagpole would mean he's facing away from the pole. And I like that because I don't want to get the visual in my mind that he's running into the pole. And once I see it this way, I can't unsee it. I think, Verna, it's so right. You're exactly right. This is how it should fly. The bison should be facing away from the pole. And the more I stared at this photo, the more I thought, that's how the flag is, right? No. Goes the other way. Well, that's weird. Now I have to double check and make sure it does go that way. Yeah, look, Wyoming, because it just doesn't seem right. Yeah, it faces left or west and into the pole. I don't think that's right. I think it should face. And here's another thing too that I don't hear anybody. I don't hear any of this part of the conversation. But there's also this philosophical argument that the bison, if he's facing east, anything facing east in feng shui is looking toward the sunrise and looking ahead. Anything figuratively, anything facing west is looking at the sunset and you're looking behind or you're looking for the end. So there's some feng shui going on with the bison as well, I think. If you really wanted to deep think it, Jack Handy, you could deep think it. and say, well, maybe he should be facing west because we're west. But I just like the bison facing away from the pole. When he's facing into the pole, it looks like he's just butting his head into the pole. Which maybe is exactly what this bison wants to do. Did you know this? Buffalo, the buffler, as Buffalo Bill Cody would call them. Look at all them buffler out there. Somebody get me a 50 sharps. I'm going to take care of all them buffler. The buffler is the only animal, the only bovine anyway, that faces weather, faces a storm. Which way is the wind blowing? All you got to do is look out and see which way your horse is standing, because he's going to put his butt to the wind. A horse is going to put his butt as protection. He's going to have head away from a storm. So if it's raining and snowing or blowing hard, the horse, the domestic cow, all your hooved creatures are going to face away from inclement weather, except for the bison. Bison's built differently. Obviously, the bison doesn't have that giant butt to protect his head. He trims down towards the butt, and the bison's mass is the hump and the head, and the bison goes right into weather, faces bad weather. Check it out. You don't believe me? Next time you see some buffalo, I can tell you where they are. They're right up north of me. I'm not allowed to disclose my location, but I will say just barely an hour drive north, you can find all the bison you want, standing on the highway usually, and facing the storm like a bunch of idiots. So maybe that's why they do face the pole. And maybe Verna had a great idea, but she did not consult your average buffler. And they prefer to, put their head into things. Pole, weather, whatever. Let's take, we got to do a quick break. I should do a weather thing here. I don't really have a routine yet. I will develop like a normal routine here pretty soon, but I do want to talk to other reporters. There's a rumor that maybe we can get a hold of Rod Miller as soon as I can end my Zoom here that I'm already on. And yeah, hopefully maybe we can talk to Rod Miller. We can talk to some other folks. But we do have a lot of stories we got to get to still. We're not done yet. I want to talk about the pumpkin thing. Maybe we can get Andrew. I want to talk about the guy who is printing his own money so he can buy more meth, allegedly. And Chester, the lost pack horse. Chester, what are you thinking, man? Somehow he survives a couple weeks. This Utah horse survives a couple weeks in the wilds of Wyoming. And if he could tell stories, can you imagine? We'll be right back with this and more after these.
In Southwest Wyoming, wide open space is waiting. This is how we explore it. In Rock Springs and Green River, Wyoming. Plan your adventure at explorewy.com.
Your attention is precious. That's why Blue Cross Blue Shield of Wyoming works hard to make navigating your healthcare easier. Because having the right health insurance means not having to think about it, letting you focus on you. That's the benefit of Blue.
Want to stay in touch with what's happening around Wyoming? I'm Wendy Core, host of the Cowboy State Daily video newscast. From Mountain View to Upton, from Jackson to Cheyenne, our reporters are out there finding and telling the stories that matter. Every day, I talk to the talented journalists who are covering the topics, issues, and people that are important to Wyomingites. And in our daily newscast, I bring you their stories. Tune in to Cowboy State Daily video news every morning, only on CowboyStateDaily.com.
Back to the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show in studio. Hoping to talk to Rod if we can find him. He's the Cowboy State Daily I don't even know what to call him, because to classify him is pigeonholing him, and he's impossible to adequately classify. I mean, he's cowboy, he's politics. You've read his stuff. He's one of our top columnists on Cowboy State Daily, Rod Miller, and he doesn't have a computer. You don't even know what they are. But he does have a phone, and I think he'll try to call on here in just a little bit, hopefully. And we'll talk about whatever Rod wants to talk about, because that's just the way you do it. Chester, the lost pack horse. Chester. You know, he's not the first horse to get lost by a hunter. Happens every year. I can remember one horse. I remember one horse they got lost around in the Bridger-Teton National Forest. He was gone all winter, which is astounding. And they got him back in the spring. So it happens. It's not like, you go out hunting and your horse throws you and he runs away and somehow you crawl hand and foot with your injury out of the forest. And usually it's your pack. It's some other horse, usually not the one you're riding. You ride into camp with your pack horse. Your pack horse is bringing, your camp stove, your canvas tent. And then the pack horse is going to pack out your elk. And those are the ones that usually get away, because you corral them, and maybe you got a hot wire, and maybe the hot wire's not working, or maybe a bear comes along to camp and hot wire be damned, the horse is gone, or maybe you just don't tie him well and he slips. And that's what Chester did. He slipped his halter and snuck off, and this Utah hunter went back to Utah. He got an elk. I'm going to try to share the story. And it's still looking at... Yeah, that's weird. All right, I'm doing my best to share this. Oh, there he is. There's Chester, the pack horse from Utah. And he was found in Bondurant, a few miles from where he got loose, just kind of trotting down the road. You can see his pack saddle has come loose and just come up under him. That's not a comfortable feeling for a horse. Spent 4 days and 5 nights in the Wyoming wild. Was finally found in Bondurant. Big roan horse, only a 2-year-old. And the owner said, when word got back, and that's something to ask Mark Hines, is how did the owner, the hunter who lost him, he returned to Utah. Eric Major is his name. And how did Eric must have left word, be on the lookout for my horse. Maybe he used social media. Maybe he used tack some flyers up. He's like, here's Chester. If you see him, give me a call. And somehow somebody did connect owner Eric Major with his lost 2-year-old big strawberry roan and said, yeah, we found him. And he said, well, feel free to put him to work. As long as he's not lame, he needs to be taught a lesson. And he's right about that. I mean, the last thing you want to do with a horse that's done something naughty is reward him for that. He's gone on a 4-day bender. And if you find this horse in Bondurant, Eric Major, his owner, said, put him to work. Have him drag out some logs or something. Yeah, so I think it's a good idea. It's sound thinking. We'll see if is this Rod Miller? We'll see if he feels the same way. Rod, are you with us? Oh man, you sound not good, and I don't know if it's my end. Oh wow. I don't know why that sounds so bad, Rod. You sound like all computerized. It's weird. Yeah, try again. Call me again. Let's see if we get a better connection. That's all I can think of. I'm hoping that's Rod Miller because I want to talk to him about this. I bet he'll have a thing or two to say about horses that get loose. For one thing, I think this horse is a little young to be doing pack work. A 2-year-old. 2-year-old's not fully developed yet. They're not formed. I mean, they're still a colt. They're still young. Besides being dumb, I mean, you know, they're just not, you know, formed and ready to be working that hard. Rod, are you there? Yeah, you hear me okay? Just nod if you. Yeah, that's so weird. I mean, I'm sorry. It's just not working on our end. It's not going to be good. I don't know why. Yeah, I'm going to blame it on Rod's end of things because that's weird. I think I've got everything worked out here, but I could be wrong. But that doesn't sound right. Sorry, Rob. We just can't use it. It just sounds like unintelligible, which could be how Rod sounds at 8 a.m. Unintelligible. Oh my goodness. It's 8 a.m. We got to get Wendy's news going. So we'll talk more about Chester, the lost horse, how he got found, what he's doing right now, and how he might have got lost. Yeah, we'll figure it all out. Chester, the lost pack horse, found in Bondurant and heading back to Utah. It's top of the hour news. You're enjoying the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show with Jake. Let's check in with Wendy.
It's time to take a look at what's happening around Wyoming. I'm Wendy Core, bringing you stories from the Cowboy State Daily Newsroom for Tuesday, October 1st. Residents in the northern Wyoming town of Dayton are ready to leave if necessary as an out-of-control wildfire burns closer. Cowboy State Daily's Renee Jean reports that high winds have helped the elk fire explode in just a few short days to 22,000 acres, threatening homes in its path.
It's only 3 to 5 miles away, and they've already started this direction. It's really grown fast. It went from 27 acres to like over 6,700 overnight.
Meanwhile, a lightning strike deep in Wyoming's Bridger-Teton National Forest blew up overnight Sunday to nearly 20,000 acres. It also prompted new evacuation orders for Brooks Lake and Lava Mountain lodges, as well as ranches and the KOA campground. A former police detective who accused the Riverton Police Department of harboring a hostile work environment and racist tendencies has settled a federal lawsuit he filed in April. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports that the lawsuit was filed against the agency and the city of Riverton by Billy Whiteplume, the first enrolled Northern Arapaho tribal member to become a Riverton police officer.
He ascended through the ranks to become detective, but then he started to clash with his supervisors and others in the department, and he has since alleged that the department fostered hostile workplace tendencies and racially discriminatory tendencies. And while the department denied those claims, the department and Whiteplume and potentially the city too, which was also named on the suit, have settled.
The terms of his settlement have not yet been released to the public. A 19-year-old Cheyenne man was sentenced Monday to 5 to 7 years in prison for shooting his brother's killer in the foot and brandishing a firearm toward a woman who was in his way. Leandro Dominguez was originally charged with attempted first-degree murder and 3 assault charges, but Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports that after striking a plea agreement with the Laramie County District Attorney's Office, he agreed to plead guilty to 2 aggravated assault charges.
He has no criminal history. You know, he stayed out of trouble. Judge Cooley indicated, like, your character and your history do not match this crime. It's kind of trauma upon trauma here in what was defined in court as youths escalating things.
If Dominguez completes the youthful offender program, he can return to the court and ask for a reduction on the remainder of his sentence. I'll be back with more news right after this.
Did you know it's illegal to dig or excavate without knowing what's below? This is Jan Warren, Executive Director for One Call of Wyoming. We will be hosting workshops around the state to educate homeowners, realtors, landscapers, underground facility owners, and excavators on the state law, industry best practices when it comes to planting a tree, building a fence, or any other excavation project you have planned. Join us for a free breakfast, get your questions answered, and learn how One Call of Wyoming is here to help. Go to onecallofwyoming.com and register today.
Archery hunter Landon Clement of Georgia told Cowboy State Daily that his Glock 10mm pistol jammed twice during a grizzly attack in the remote upper Green River Basin. Several factors could have caused the hunter's pistol to jam during the attack early Thursday, but Outdoors reporter Mark Hines spoke to gun experts who say Clement still performed well under terrifying pressure.
Maybe the type of ammunition, the pistol didn't really like it all that much and wasn't cycling it very well, or even the way you hold a pistol. If you don't hold it, if you don't have a good enough grip and enough resistance against the palm of your hand, it'll fail to cycle the action. So we don't know for sure why that pistol jammed.
Whether semi-automatic pistols or magnum caliber revolvers are better for bear defense is a debate that might never be settled. And the couple who set a new Utah state record with a humongous 2,289-pound pumpkin this weekend may have a Wyoming pumpkin growing virtuoso to thank for it. The seed that Ralph and Lona Laub used to grow their gargantuan gourd came from Andy Corbin, a Cheyenne pumpkin grower who set Wyoming's state record last October when he showed up to a weigh-in with a 2,062-pounder. That's according to Cowboy State Daily's Andrew Rossi.
I think it's saying something that the state record holder in the state of Utah was grown from a seed from a Wyoming pumpkin. That's showing that Wyoming's got what it takes to grow these massive pumpkins, and we'll see a lot bigger ones in the future.
The Wyoming State Champion Pumpkin Weigh-Off will be underway at the Washakie County Fair, and that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting the daily newsletter button on cowboystatedaily.com. I'm Wendy Core for Cowboy State Daily.
We're back, Cowboy State Daily Morning Show with Jake. It's 8:06 Mountain Time. I don't know where you live. We will talk to reporter Mark Hines at 8:10, so just in a few minutes here. And I want to talk to him about Chester the horse. I also want to talk to him about a story over the weekend that he did about Little Siberia. What a fantastic story with a video element. It's so cool. And if you missed it, I'll tee it up again for you when we get Mark on. But the first thing to talk to Mark about is this hunter, this Utah hunter who has strong ties to Wyoming. It's not like he's a Utah hunter. He's come up to Wyoming. He has no idea what he's doing. He's a horseman. He knows horses. He knows how to hunt. He's got ties to the Lyman, Wyoming area, ties to Star Valley as well. But I have to question, and I will talk to Mark about this. I have to question a couple of things about the story that this hunter did. Number one, the hunter himself was thrown off the horse he was riding and hit his head. Eric Major said, I got dumped into a creek by the horse I was riding, not Chester, and I hit my head pretty hard. And he kind of worried, him and his buddies worried away, maybe he might have a concussion. So he stayed in camp for a few days. This is after apparently he did get a bull elk, a 7x8. Is that right? You got a pretty good sized bull elk. So that caused a delay apparently in getting the elk packed out. He left this elk for days, I want to say. I'll ask Mark, but that's there's your first mistake. I mean, your first mistake is getting thrown by your horse, and I know it happens. But these seem to be a lot of things working against Eric Major. Before we even talk about him losing Chester, the pack horse, Eric Major gets thrown by his other horse he's riding. That's not good. And then leaving an elk there. I mean, there's many times where you'll have to leave your downed elk overnight. That's not unusual. I wonder if we can hear Mark talk about it. Let's see.
Chester is a huge roan pack horse from Utah that might have thought he really showed his owner up by slipping out of his halter and going on a 4-day, 5-night solo adventure in the wild Wyoming
Well
backcountry.
put, Wendy.
The Cowboy State Daily's Mark Hines reports that Chester was found alive and well early Wednesday, trotting around on a county road near Bondurant in western Wyoming.
They kind of tied him up as they went into this area that was too rough to take the horses. They got back down and Chester was gone. He'd managed somehow to slip out of his halter, which was buckled. One of the guys rode all the way down out to where they'd parked the trailer. He wasn't there. And so they went back up the mountain all day. The next day, they searched for him. For 4 days and 5 nights, somebody spotted Chester, trotting around on a county road down there.
With an insurmountable language barrier between horses and humans, Chester's solo adventure in the Wyoming mountains will forever remain a mystery to his owner.
Naughty Chester. Yeah. So I'm surprised that Eric left that elk there so long. That to me is kind of surprising. Let's get to Mark. I think he's joining us now via Zoom. Mark, first off, I'm always interested to hear how you found the story. How did this land in your lap?
But in the particular, I'll bet this was one my wife found. My wife finds a lot of stories. She scours social media, particularly Facebook, and she's got a really sharp eye.
That's great.
What makes a good story. So I think she was the one that tipped me off to it.
That's cool. So, all right, let's, you did find horse owner, and I tried to explain, why your pack horse, you wouldn't be riding the pack horse right to find the elk. You set up a hunt camp, you tie him up, and then you go probably on foot to do your actual hunting.
Yeah.
And he does kill a bull elk, pretty good bull elk, and he goes back for his pack horse and it's gone. Now, I'm not understanding why he left this elk carcass tied up so bears couldn't get it for so long. I think it was days and nights, and a black bear got into it.
I think it was a couple days. In my experience, it'd probably be okay. I mean, people hang their meat for a while before they butcher it anyway. The old tale is that the indigenous, they'd hang it until it had mold on it. So it's actually advisable to let your meat hang for a while before you butcher it, because it tenderizes it. You might get some nasty dry skin over the top of it, but when I butcher, I just peel that off. It's just like skinning the animal again, and then you got really good tenderized seasoned meat underneath it. So I didn't see that as a problem, again, just based upon my experience. And you're right about pack horses. There's something else. I mean, I haven't done much as an adult, but I grew up with it. We did it all the time when I was a kid. And I have to tell you, we had this horse named Moses. And he was kind of the opposite of Chester, because Moses liked to go at his own pace, and we just let him. At the trailhead, we would load Moses up, and then we'd take off on our riding horses, and Moses would get to camp when he got to camp. And we just let him do that. He never got lost. He picked up our trail and followed us, and sometimes you might have to sit around and wait for an hour for Moses to show up, but we respected that because, he was really good at what he did.
Funny. That's so
Yeah,
fun.
yeah.
A horse that loose herds its way to camp.
Yep.
And yeah, you're probably on your third Coors Light and you hear some noise like hello at camp.
Well,
it's just Moses.
He was not to be rushed.
Wow.
That was just how he was.
So cool. Meanwhile, Chester is the opposite. He doesn't want to go to work, and he's left. He's AWOL. He's off the job, and I'm interested to know how. So, Eric, I mean, people. You do lose a horse out in the wild, and you just count on the fact that the horse can stay alive for a while.
Yeah.
He's got stuff to eat, and he's going to show up sooner or later. And he goes back to Utah. How did he leave word that his horse was lost?
His brother, he has strong ties here to Wyoming. His brother and his parents live here, and so his brother just blasted the word out on social media.
I see.
And they kept track. I think how the chain of events is somebody got a hold of his mom, and then his mom got a hold of somebody who was in the area, and that person went and got Chester. So
got it.
I mean, there was definitely that. That's you and I can remember a time before social media when you couldn't do that. Everything was word of mouth. Everything was phones. The one phone on the wall that you dialed like this. Kids these days have no idea.
Yeah, and
communication
right
is a challenge.
Well, let's go back to it doesn't have to be the 1880s, just the 1980s. Chester would have got back with Eric Major in Utah after the brand inspector noticed that, hey, wait a minute, where did you find this horse? That might have been a year later. Yeah, so this horse is either put to work by a Bondurant rancher or he's on his way back to Utah. Where are we now?
I think the last word I had is that he lucked out. Chester lucked out. He got out of that extra work duty and he went straight home.
Good for him. Well,
he got away with it, sort of. He's young. You're right. He's only 2 years old. He's still a baby. So, they're just gonna have to keep a closer eye on him.
I haven't had a chance yet to tee up your story from the weekend, Little Siberia, but I am going to try to fully explain it to folks. But for now, let's pretend everybody knows what I'm talking about, and we'll go back and relive that story. But it is so cool. It has so many Wyoming elements to it. Beginning with a one-room schoolhouse in the middle of nowhere. Nothing screams Wyoming more than that. And the fact that Wyoming people, and I believe you got a great quote out of these people. I think that's how the story ends is they say life is hard, pick your kind of hard or whatever. I mean, for how many years did this family, and this all begins with basically one ranching family with a couple of kids. They don't want to send them off 2 hours to the nearest school in bad weather. It's impossible.
They didn't want to send him off. The mom was very straight up and said, I'm just not suited. You see, she has nothing against homeschooling, but she said, I'm not suited for that. So the options are to, haul the kids all the way into Rock River every day, which is, an hour one way on a good day.
Yeah.
So they 6 years. I believe they were at it for 6 years. And what
they're at is trying to make the school official. Like, you can't just start a school. I mean, you can homeschool, but you can't just. It's got to be charter or whatever. So they want to do the next best thing to homeschooling, which is a one-room schoolhouse and an actual hired teacher. But that proved to be really like. We had to go in front of legislators, and it took one Democrat to finally take up her cause.
Yeah,
but
Trey
man,
Sherwood.
Wow.
Yeah, I've known Trey for a long time. I've known Trey since I moved to Laramie, since way back when I was working for the Laramie Boomerang. So her tenacity helped a lot too. But I think when talk about winning the lottery with that teacher. I mean, because you put out an ad, how many people are, okay, here, come live and by yourself on one side of a school building in an area where, you can be quite possible you're going to be snowed in for weeks at a time during the winter. And she just It helped that she's a Wheatland native, so she's from Wyoming, so she understands what she's getting into.
Yeah.
And I mean, what a find in terms of the teacher.
And she has experience in a metro area. She's from the Denver area. She taught.
Well, she's not from there. She was teaching there.
She taught there.
She she grew up in Wheatland, went to school at UW, and I don't know if it was her first job, but at the time she's in the Windsor, which is a suburb of Denver.
Yeah.
So yeah.
and she said, and you're right, that one ad could not have read very appealing, but yet she responded, and she even says in the story, you get her, Riley Strand gets her on camera saying, had I known that this family was snowed in for 7 weeks last winter, you might have led with that, because I don't know if I would have took the job, but she did, and so. You finally you get this push through the proper channels. You get the okay for a school, including funding. I think $300,000 set aside or something.
Correct. Yes.
But now $300,000 isn't going to buy you a building from the ground up. You can't build it. They lucked out in the building. Where'd that come from?
Well, Carbon County had a building. They got it through impact funds. I understand, impact funds from I believe the wind turbine projects there. And they had plans for this building, and then it just kind of turned into a white elephant. It was just sitting there in the parking lot of their road and bridge shop, basically just sitting there halfway empty, and they didn't know what to do with it. And they're like, oh, look, someone's looking for a building. So again, that's another incredible stroke of luck. They needed a building really badly. Carbon County wanted to get rid of a building really badly, and they met in the middle. There you go.
Yeah, it was an underutilized building, barely being used, and for $80,000, that's your new schoolhouse, and it all worked.
The icing on the cake is they had a guy right there, their former building and ground supervisor, who's become a private contractor, had the equipment and the know-how to move that building, which was no small task.
Which was a day and a half.
2 days.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've been up that road, getting that building up that road, that's insane. I mean, that took some skill.
That's one last thing I want to ask you. We're gonna play the video for you so you can really see this and feel like you're there. But Greg, you tell us what it was like being there, like getting there. What was the drive like? It took a while. Mark, sorry.
Well, you got the drive from Laramie to Rock River, which is a better part of 40 minutes, and then you go up. You take a right on Fetterman Road just outside of Rock River, and then you just go and go and go and go and go. And I thought it was awesome. It was a treat. I was getting to do it on a bright, sunshiny day, and I've been up that way elk hunting before. And it's wonderful, when the weather's clear and you can see for miles and miles in every direction. I love I've got nothing against mountains and pine forests and all that, but my heart's in the wide open country. I love it. So it was fun. But then you get to thinking, okay, what if I had to do this every single day, regardless of weather? I could see it getting old real fast.
Yeah.
So.
And how slow they had to go with a building. I can't imagine bringing that schoolhouse there. So if you don't know what we're talking about, and we've jumped into the middle of a story, I'll go back and we'll pick it up again from the beginning. But we had to take advantage of when we could get Mark. And thanks. So you fleshed out 2 stories for us this morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I see Rod's here waiting for you.
Yeah, I want to talk to Rod about I don't know what, but it doesn't matter. Thanks, Mark.
All right. I'll see you later, Jake.
All right, buddy. Yeah, Rod Miller is with us. Rod, I'm so excited. I'm going to unmute you. Ask to unmute. I don't know what that means. Oh, yeah, you have to unmute yourself, maybe. Because I don't know how to do it. Hold on. Yeah, I should.
There
you are. Work? There you go, buddy. So what's happening?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you wouldn't. I can't even explain to you what that phone sounded. It sounded like you were doing one of those things where they have like a witness protection program, and you're not allowed to voice disguise. It just sounded. You don't have voice disguise on your phone, do you?
It could be, I had peyote at Everclear for breakfast, so my voice was kind of scratchy.
That is exactly what it sounded like. Yeah. So, what do you want to tell? Did you read about that Chester the horse that you ever had a pack horse
yes,
that
I did.
they've gone on a little walkabout?
Like you, I can't figure out why anyone would take a 2-year-old in a pack saddle.
Yeah.
We never even we cut our horse colts at 2 years old.
Yep.
And then turned them out for 6 months, and then brought them back in, and that's when we halter broke them. And they would never really do any work until they were 3, and had their wits about them.
Yep.
Their skeleton was filled out. So
yeah,
I don't know. He's just an interesting horse.
Yes, you don't expect a 2-year-old to be fully formed. And the reason why it's important, even with a big stout horse like this, is a pack horse is carrying dead weight. It's one thing if you're riding him and you're shifting your weight around, the pack horse has got to work twice as hard. That weight's just dead, and it's difficult. And besides the brain of a 2-year-old horse, which you can't even begin to fathom, they're just not ready. And there's a lot of old time cowboys that let their horse, they don't even touch them until they're 3. They want them to be able to pick their way through the terrain and rocks, and then they don't go to work till they're at least 3. But all right, you got
your piece on the flag. The flag.
They want them to be able to pick their.
Yeah, we lost. Now we got Jimmy. We lost Rod. Jimmy, we're seeing you. Okay, hopefully we'll get him back. But yeah, the flag. I want to hear Rod's take on the flag as well. If you weren't with us earlier, the state flag, the bison, is facing toward the pole when you run it up the flag. The flag's designer says she designed it. Well, she's long gone, but the granddaughter said it was originally designed for the bison to look like it's walking away from the pole, which makes more sense to me, honestly. But yeah, I think Jimmy did something wrong. Jimmy, we're going to blame it on you. We had Rod going just fine, but I know there's a morning regular meeting at headquarters at Cowboy State Daily, so maybe they're trying to get the meeting ready and we can't do everything all at once. 8:26, the weather forecast, as you heard Don Day say earlier, is pretty much bulletproof. I mean, we can't find clouds anywhere, can't find any rain, which is not good for the wildfires. And just a beautiful fall day, though. Colors, warm, comfortable temperatures in the mid to upper 70s, some low 70s in the western part of the state. Here's Don Day.
Well, after a little bit of fall-like weather yesterday with much cooler temperatures across the state, we're going to start to see temperatures go back up again. And still, I'm afraid to say, there's no precipitation in sight. Things are extremely dry, fire dangers are extreme, and we're in a pattern where we're cut off from any good supply of moisture, either from the Pacific or coming up from the south. And although we're going to see some fluctuations in temperatures over the course of the next 5 to 7 days, the swings in temperature won't be big, and the chances of moisture through the weekend very low.
Not good news for the fires for sure, but good news if you're out there outside recreating. Great golfing weather. Maybe too hot to hunt. It is for me. I like to hunt when it's nasty out, just cold, snowy. But yeah, good golfing weather here as these summer temps extend into October. I can't believe it's October 1st, and I'm looking out the window, and I spent most of the day yesterday without the shirt on. I was outside. That's just how I roll, though. TMI. But yeah, Casper, you're going to be 80s. I think the hot spot, let me see where the warm spot is right now. And I'm going to try to share this screen with you. And keep in mind, my screen sharing has been really wonky, really sketchy. There we go. I'm sharing with you the weather map, current conditions, current temps. Laramie, you're 41. Kemmerer, you're 42. Those are the two warm spots. Gillette's 41. Those are the three warmest spots in the state right now. And you're all heading in all those locations, heading for pushing 80, upper 70s. Jackson, you're at 30. Bondurant, 17 degrees. Man, it is America's little icebox. Grable, you're at 33. We got frost warnings through much of the state until 9 a.m., until 10 in some other parts. But yeah, slow warm up, and we're going to get to some beautiful temps here in the 70s. Rollins, you're 37 right now, 40 in Rock Springs. Lyman's 35, and in Grable, 33 degrees. Warland, 31, where they're going to drop a big, giant pumpkin on my computer. I can't wait. Yeah, again, if you're joining us late, I've had some computer issues that, you know, if I knew anything about anything when it comes to computers, I could probably adjust something and fix it. But right now, I don't know what's the matter with it. I really don't. And it's just not, it's making our video be a little sketchy, but, you know, we'll work with it. So enough on Chester the Lost Pack Horse. I want to move to some obits. And, you know, I don't know how much of a regular feature this will be, but I think it's timely right now to talk about a couple of folks that have left us, some Wyomingites that have passed away recently. One, Bruce Hauser, and I'm not sure when he died. I think it was a couple of weeks ago, but I know Bruce Hauser. If any of you had a chance to see Bruce Hauser and the Sawmill Creek Band, if you had, you're all the better for it. And you know what I'm talking about. Bruce Hauser, just a legend around the region, Idaho, Wyoming. He played, him and his band played all around, especially in Jackson Hole. I've seen Bruce many times. Kenny Bradbury, his bass player. So they had a celebration of life service for him at the $1 Million Cowboy Bar in Jackson, Wyoming, just last Sunday, just a couple nights ago. And I happen to be the DJ at the Cowboy Bar most Sunday nights, and I was DJing that Sunday after this service for Bruce Hauser. So I was right there front and center for it all. And it was a real collection. It was really cool, old school Wyoming, old school Jackson Hole, which obviously has changed a lot. But this was old time Jack. That was like Jackson of the 1970s and 80s. All those same people, the same kind of scene. Bruce Hauser playing, you know, although Bruce wasn't there, but a lot of his bandmates played. You know who dropped in as well? Muzzy Braun, whose kids play in Reckless Kelly. And a lot of folks know who Reckless Kelly is, the band that started in Jackson, became pretty darn famous, as famous as you can get in Jackson. I saw Reckless Kelly play at Sidewinders Bar when it used to be across Broadway. If you ever been to Sidewinders, used to be a bar where bands played. I saw Reckless Kelly play at Sidewinders years ago. And then Reckless Kelly became too big for Jackson, and they decided we're going to go to Austin, Texas, where this red dirt country scene was really blowing up. And off they went to Austin to become pretty darn famous. Reckless Kelly. Well, that's Muzzy Braun's kids. Muzzy lives over there in Idaho, and he plays all over the place too. He was there the other night, and so was his kid, one of the members of Reckless Kelly. It was just a great night. Great Bruce Hauser night. And I'm going to see if I can get I'm trying to get the video to play that I took a little video, and this is Bruce's daughter, but I cannot get it to work. His computer doesn't want to do it. That's so weird. Why can't I get it to work? But yeah, it was a really cool night. And Bruce, I mean, we miss you. Miss you already. And it was a real special night for Bruce Hauser. Lived a good, long life. Also, Wyoming is missing David Tremblay. And boy, I can't believe he's gone so soon. If you're from the DuBois area, David was a longtime teacher at DuBois High School, and he coached the football team. And I was first introduced to him covering a story for what I believe was the first girl football player to score a touchdown in the state of Wyoming. That's right. Sometimes you'll see girls in football and they'll be the kicker or something. Rarely do you see a girl physically able to play with the boys at the high school level. I mean, they're just so much bigger and stronger, and it's almost not safe. But there's this girl, I think she was a freshman, on the DuBois football team. And not only did she play, she wasn't just a token, here I am. She scored a touchdown. And so I did a story on her, and her coach was David Tremblay. And he was so proud of her. And here's how great a coach he was. He put her in the game when, his team had a pretty good lead, and he said, I am going to get this girl a touchdown. And he had his, I'm trying to show a photo now of let's see if I can share this. This is, if I can get it to work. Yeah, this should work. This is a scene from the other day. This is the service for David Tremblay. His wife posted these on Facebook. These are the folks that gathered in DuBois to remember his life. He was taken way too early from us. I believe he's suffered from cancer. As you see folks gathered there in DuBois. But as the story, I didn't meet David, but I did get a chance to talk with him about this story about the girl scoring a touchdown for his football team. And he told one of his kids, if you ever get a chance, if you're running towards the end zone and it looks like you're going to score, I want you to fall down before you get in the end zone, because when you get close, I want to give a chance for this girl to score a touchdown. I thought that was pretty cool, the coach. And anyway, I could tell right away this was a special guy. I could tell from talking to people in DuBois that they just adored this man, David Tremblay. Well respected. And not long after I wrote this story, last football season, this is last fall, not long after I wrote it, I saw on Facebook his wife posted something that David was going to resign from being the football coach, resign from teaching. And I thought, well, that's odd. He's like a great teacher and really great, successful football coach, but it was because of his health, obviously. And boy, look at, we're barely a year later and David's gone. Just tough. So we're thinking about you DuBois Rams football team. They're, David lives on in his family, and his son, I'm trying to think of his son's name. My memory's not what it used to be. His son plays football. His son was actually the most valuable player in some kind of inter-country game that he went up and played in Canada. And he's a heck of an athlete, David's son. and may have a future in the game of football. He's really good. And then finally, it comes in threes. The third obit, the third passing that we want to pass along to you is a young man that I don't know who he is, but I'm just reading this from the Wyoming Speech and Debate Facebook page. Dawson Fanton, former teammate of Wyoming Speech and Debate. The Wyoming Speech and Debate community, they all know, they all come together on social media to remember and recognize Dawson. I does not say how or when he passed, but bright, talented young man filled with promise, well-liked and respected by all who knew him. Dawson Fenton, there he is right here on your screen, passed away. So, three gentlemen in Wyoming that we will miss, and things will not be the same without them. I want to take a quick break, and we're going to come back and talk about, I have two things I want to get to. One is this GPS tracking of wolves I found incredible, and it has got nothing to do with running wolves over with snow machines. It's wolves respecting each other's territory. They collared these wolves in different packs and just tracked wherever they went, and found that you wouldn't believe the territorial fidelity wolves have, respecting each other's. It's incredible, and I have to share the photo with you for you even to see it and believe it. And then I want to, give 15 minutes of fame to this drug dealer, allegedly, who is turning $1 bills into $100 bills. No, he's not an online TV evangelist. I will make you money. Name it and claim it. No, he's like bleaching dollar bills and writing in a couple zeros behind the one. And he tried to pass a few off in I think Walmart, and he got caught. I really wish the story had a picture of how he tried to fake the money. I'm sure it's terrible. We're coming right back with that story after this.
Wyoming is a big state. There's so much ground to cover, so many stories to tell. But the Cowboy State Daily News team is up to the challenge. I'm Wendy Core, host of Cowboy State Daily Video News. Whether it's politics in Cheyenne, energy issues in the Powder River Basin, or grizzlies in Yellowstone, our talented crew of experienced journalists are out there finding and telling the stories that matter. What's the best restaurant in DuBois? Renee Jean checks it out. What's the most recent Supreme Court decision mean to our everyday lives? Claire McFarland explains. How is the upcoming elk hunting season shaping up? Mark Hines lets us know. Every day, I talk to the reporters who are covering the topics, issues, and people that are important to Wyomingites, and in our daily newscast, I bring you those stories. Tune into the Cowboy State Daily Video Newscast every morning, only on CowboyStateDaily.com.
We're back. Cowboy State Daily Morning Show with Jake, 842. Nothing really to talk about weather-wise. Nothing going on really with your road conditions either. I mean, it's, no snow going yet, so we're fine in that way. Let me try to share the Wyoming travel map with you, and you'll see just one noteworthy closure, and that's way up at the top of your map there. Is Wyo Roads the place we find this? Whenever you're on the interwebs looking for some time to kill, get down this rabbit hole. Go check out Wyo Roads Find out what roads are open, what's going on throughout the state. Right now, everything clean and green. You see a little exclamation point around Jackson. That's to indicate the Teton Pass is, obviously it fell apart, but it's fixed now. And I'm just noting that there's technically a detour on Teton Pass, but, to me, I've been over it. I've driven over it. Temporary fix seems like the permanent solution. I don't know why they don't just leave it like that. Anyway, the other closure you'll see, if you see me indicating, I wonder if you can see that. You can see my cursor, right? If I point to this area right here, I'm not sure if you can see my cursor. No, probably not. But that area in red up at the top of your screen, just southwest of Ranchester is red, and that's one of the mountain passes over the upper northern Bighorn National Forest. That's where that elk fire is going on, so that's going to be a complete closure there of 14A. Due to the elk fire, which we're keeping an eye on. We, being Cowboy State Daily, make sure you check out, bookmark cowboystatedaily.com to keep up with the area wildfires going on. Yeah, we got 2 big ones in state currently with no signs of backing down. In fact, the weather forecast from Don Day would indicate these fires are a long way from being out and going anywhere. I have in my notes, let's talk about the guy who's bleaching Hondos. Bleaching Hondos. Story from Claire McFarland, Cowboy State Daily. Man accused of bleaching $1 bills to make $100 bills could get 45 years for that. This is one of those times where I want to do the Judge Jake segment. Remember Judge Judy? The tough as nails, no nonsense TV judge. I want to be like her, only on steroids. Like, I'm going to be even tougher on crime. If it's up to me, guilty is the verdict. I would not, there's no way I would ever get picked for jury duty. I've never been called to jury duty, but if I was, I wouldn't last 2 seconds. They would throw me right out. I would show up with the t-shirt. Either, I would have to choose between the 2 t-shirts I own. He wouldn't be here if he wasn't guilty. I could do that one. Or hang them all, let God sort them out. You wear that to the jury trial, jury, what do they call it when they pick the jury? And yeah, you'll be excused before lunch. And that's how I'm going to be, Judge Jake. Like whenever I see a case like this, I'm going to give my verdict. And it's going to be a new segment on the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show. I'll get a graphic that I'll put a graphic that gives me like the white wig, the powder wig. I'll do the powder wig and a robe. Like it'll be CGI on me. And I'll say, hear ye, we will now hear the case of this Oregon man who was caught in a drug bust initially, for which he was likely going to get a slap on the wrist, because you know how it is now. You see how it is now. Yeah, you see how it is when someone gets caught with drugs. It's not even illegal. And some of my OG is going to be coming out, but you can have marijuana in Colorado, right? And basically in Wyoming. Come on. Front Range, Colorado is Cheyenne, Laramie. Same thing. Everybody's got medicinal pot. You know, it doesn't even have to be for medicinal purposes. Now you can just have smaller amounts of marijuana. It's not illegal. So this guy is just rolling heavy through Wyoming, allegedly smoking pot. Curtis Barnes, 45-year-old. And he's pulled over in, just some kind of routine traffic stop. And the cop smells marijuana, finds marijuana, digs a little harder, finds meth, amphetamine, for which still you're looking at practically no jail time, in my experience, unless I'm Judge Jake. He's got marijuana in the vehicle and he's got meth in the vehicle, practically a slap on the wrist in a drug investigation. But wait a minute. The cops find altered money that apparently, allegedly, was bleached. Dollar bills were bleached out, a la Catch Me If You Can, if you ever seen that movie, where Lenny DiCaprio, in one of his many jobs, was altering checks, bleaching checks, and rewriting them. So this guy's bleaching dollar bills, pure genius. Like, I thought if you're like on drugs, if you're smoking pot and doing a lot of meth, that you would not be smart enough to be able to figure out how to make money. I mean, like, make money, manufacture money. That seems really hard. Like, I wouldn't know where to begin. And I wouldn't know where to begin to make a $1 bill change into a $100 bill. It would be comical. I would just write in 2 zeros after, but he was like bleaching them somehow and altering them and making $100 bills. Now, he wasn't great at it because apparently he tried to pass a couple off and 2 counterfeit $100 bills were refused by, I want to say it's a Walmart. Yeah. Barnes tried to spend money at the Walmart and the clerk rejected the bills as counterfeit. So thankfully somebody noticed that, yeah, these aren't legit. But the point, what I'm getting at is, and let me share this story. What I'm getting at is the fact that the drug bust would probably have been hardly anything with jail time. It's when the feds get called at. Once you start making money, oh boy, that's when the feds noticed. And that's why Curtis Barnes is facing a potential 45 years in prison. And he happens to be 45 years old. So quick math, he should be in prison until he's 90. But he won't be. I would love to follow this story up because I guarantee the guy doesn't do maybe a year in prison for making $100 bills. Probably because he's so bad at it. But the feds are involved, and that's why you're looking at a potentially hefty charge. Grand jury indicted Barnes on 2 charges of making his own money, punishable by up to 45 years in prison and $500,000 in fines, presumably which will be paid with altered $1 bills. Just guessing. So Judge Jake already says guilty. Guilty. But I gotta admire the chutzpah to make your own money. I'm impressed. Nice try. While we're on the courts and crime beat, and by the way, if you read Cowboy State Daily, the courts and crime reporter is Claire McFarland. And I hope you can appreciate how difficult it is to be a courts and crime reporter. You got to have your I's crossed and your T's dotted. or the other way around. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you have to be way more factual than I like to be in my writing. You can't, I mean, it's hard to write. It's hard to cover courts and crime and cover legal matters. And if you ever listen to Claire talk about legal matters, your eyes will glaze over with her legal terminology. She sounds like she swallowed a law book. I don't know how she does it, because that same person also writes a column weekly about her family, which is totally not like Courts and Crimes writing. It's like, I don't even know what it's like. She's funny. Really funny. But when she's covering courts and crime, you know, the leeway, the leash you have to be funny is pretty short. And as soon as you are funny, lawyers don't want to talk to you. The cops don't want to talk to you. So it's really difficult to navigate being a good court and crime reporter. You got to get it right. Let me share this story with you. Cheyenne man gets 5 to 7 years for shooting another man in the foot in what is being termed an instance of stupidity. 19-year-old man. This is one of those stories, one of those times where I really need to have Claire on to better clarify what I'm reading, because I'm mystified in the first paragraph. Leandro Dominguez shot his brother's killer in the foot. Okay, all right, like already I got a headache. Mind boggled. Wait a minute. Leandro's brother was killed by this man, and Claire says justified killer, as you can read in the story. And I guess in some kind of retaliation, Leandro, 19-year-old Cheyenne man, starts waving around a firearm, probably threatening his brother's killer. Like, you know, you could just see he wants some revenge, right? Maybe, allegedly. And then the gun goes off, and he shoots the guy in the foot. And the charges go from attempted first-degree murder to, like, some petty assault, which is surprising. That's a huge reduction in that bargaining, that plea agreement. In fact, Laramie County District Court Judge Robin Cooley said she was surprised to see an attempted murder case pleaded down to aggravated assault. That's a big jump. She said, when I first looked at this and when I compared it against the plea agreement, I was a little astounded, giving the charges against Mr. Dominguez originally, she said in this hearing. But then I guess everybody was just willing to say, and everybody, including Judge Cooley, was willing to say, in her words, an instance of stupidity. This was an instance of stupidity, said Judge Cooley. Well, you know, an instance of stupidity and 4 pounds of trigger finger pressure is all it takes to wipe somebody off this planet. And again, that to me is a big problem with today's world, today's society. An instance of that's all it takes is I was just momentarily stupid. I did a dumb thing. 100 years ago, you did a dumb thing and you left the cat outside for the night. That was an instance of stupidity. I mixed colors in with whites in the wash. That's an instance of stupidity. Brandishing a firearm, pointing it at somebody else and shooting them is beyond an instance of stupidity, especially when it's so easy to finish the deed. 4 pounds of trigger pressure. 5 to 7 years for this guy. He wasn't really trying to kill somebody. It was just an instance of stupidity. And he's not going to do 5 to 7. He'll do a lot less than that. Let's have Claire talk about it.
A 19-year-old Cheyenne man was sentenced Monday to 5 to 7 years in prison for shooting his brother's killer in the foot and brandishing a firearm toward a woman who was in his way. Leandro Dominguez was originally charged with attempted first-degree murder and 3 assault charges. But Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports that after striking a plea agreement with the Laramie County District Attorney's Office, he agreed to plead guilty to 2 aggravated assault charges.
He has no criminal history. You know, he stayed out of trouble. Judge Cooley indicated, like, your character and your history do not match this crime. And then his defense attorney, Devin Peterson, said this was just a bizarre confluence of incidents culminating in this trauma where he watched his brother get shot. The shooting was determined justified by James Scully, but he watched his brother get shot. He goes and gets the gun. He returns to the scene. He charges and he fires at the shooter's foot. So it's kind of trauma upon trauma here in what was defined in court as youths escalating things.
If Dominguez completes the youthful offender program, he can return to the court and ask for a reduction on the remainder of his sentence. He also gets credit for the 229
So maybe this happened in real time, like he sees his brother get killed, so he comes after the, I don't know, I'm confused. Still, you know, you shoot somebody, you should go to jail for a little while. You should cool off for a little while. Think about that. 9 o'clock, we got to take a quick break and check in with Wendy. Top of the hour video news coming up with the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show. Video news next with Wendy right after this.
Are you fabulous and 55? Are you ready to use your valuable time and talent to give back? Join Serve Wyoming through the AmeriCorps Seniors Retired and Senior Volunteer Program, or RSVP, and make a positive impact on your community. With a lifetime of skills and experiences, you're exactly what your community needs. Whether you're itching to lend a hand or your organization could use some extra support, we've got you covered. Call Sarah Roberts at Serve Wyoming at 307-234-3428 or RSVP at servewyoming.org.
It's time to take a look at what's happening around Wyoming for Tuesday, October 1st. I'm Wendy Core, bringing you headlines from the Cowboy State Daily Newsroom, brought to you by the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show with Jake. From 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., Monday through Friday, Cowboy State Daily's Jake Nichols brings to life the latest news, weather, sports, and in-depth conversations that matter to you. Residents of Dayton woke up Monday morning to what some described as an apocalyptic scene. Billowed smoke blotted out the sky, created by what's been named the Elk Fire, which is burning a few miles northwest of the small town in northern Sheridan County. Cowboy State Daily's Renee Jean reports that Dayton's school was closed Monday morning out of an abundance of caution, and some locals were already packing up their things just in case they needed to evacuate.
Ready, set, go is kind of Wyoming's model, where set means be ready to leave on a moment's notice. So there are quite a few homes in that area that are in the set mode. Dayton is not in that category yet, but a lot of the residents see these huge plumes of smoke. It's only 3 to 5 miles away, and they've already started packing up just in case the fire doesn't change direction. It's really grown fast. It went from 27 acres to like over 6,700 overnight.
Meanwhile, residents near the historic Brooks Lake Lodge in the Bridger Teton National Forest, although weary from battling the stubborn 25,000-acre Fish Creek fire all summer, are on alert once again. Cowboy State Daily's Renee Jean reports that wind picked up speed over the weekend, breathing life into the Pack Trail fire that began September 15th.
Over the weekend, this high Wyoming wind found an area where a lightning strike had hit deep in some timbered area that's very inaccessible. And just basically overnight, suddenly the Pack Trail fire roared into life, consumed like almost 20,000 acres as of Monday morning. Brooks Lake Lodge is under new evacuation orders, along with Lava Mountain Lodge, the KOA campground, a couple of ranches in the area.
The complex incident management team that had been managing the Brooks Lake Lodge fire protection plan, as well as the Fish Creek fire, has rotated out, and a new Type 3 incident management team has rotated. Allowing people to run over wolves and other predators with snowmobiles makes Wyoming look barbaric. That's what protesters of the practice told state legislators Monday at the Capitol. Even so, Cowboy State Daily's Mark Hines reports that the Wyoming Legislature's Joint Travel, Recreation, Wildlife, and Cultural Resources Committee voted to forward a bill that will allow that to continue.
They've come up with a bill that it does not ban the practice of running predatory animals down with a snowmobile or any other vehicle, but it stipulates that if you're going to do that, you have to make every reasonable effort to kill the animal as quickly as possible. If you don't do that, it could be convicted as cruelty to animals. You could face up to $1,000 fine and or 6 months in jail. And then also an amendment that was just added today would, you could possibly lose hunting and fishing privileges for up to 3 years for doing that.
The bill and the objections against it are the latest in the continuing ripple effects of the reported capture, torture, and killing of a wolf in Daniel, Wyoming in February. Natrona County Schools and Casper Police Department officials Monday were trying to ease fears and frustrations from residents and parents about an online threat over the weekend that a student allegedly planned to kill people at noon on Monday. Cowboy State Daily's Dale Killingbeck reports that a screenshot of the online threat was posted anonymously to a social media group and said that a particular student was threatening multiple people and children's lives on September 30th at 12.
Parents had all kinds of concerns. There were concerns about, not sending their kids to school. There was concerns from parents that they were not communicated with, that they learned about it on the police department Facebook page. There was concerns just about the ongoing violence among young teens.
The threat follows ongoing concerns related to young people being violent with weapons, including 2 murders earlier this year committed outside of school, but all involving Natrona County School District students. A former police detective who accused the Riverton Police Department of harboring a hostile work environment and racist tendencies has settled a federal lawsuit that he filed in April. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports that the lawsuit was filed against the agency and the city of Riverton by Billy Whiteplume, the first enrolled Northern Arapaho tribal member to become a Riverton police officer.
He ascended through the ranks to become detective, but then he started to clash with his supervisors and others in the department, and he has since alleged that the department fostered hostile workplace tendencies and racially discriminatory tendencies. And while the department denied those claims, the department and Whiteplume and potentially the city too, which was also named on the suit, have settled.
The terms of his settlement have not yet been released to the public. And now let's take a look at today's weather with Cowboy State Daily meteorologist Don Day.
Well, after a little bit of fall-like weather yesterday with much cooler temperatures across the state, we're going to start to see temperatures go back up again. And still, I'm afraid to say, there's no precipitation in sight. Things are extremely dry. Fire dangers are extreme. And we're in a pattern where we're cut off from any good supply of moisture, either from the Pacific or coming up from the south. And although we're going to see some fluctuations in temperatures over the course of the next 5 to 7 days, the swings in temperature won't be big, and the chances of moisture through the weekend very low.
You can get Don's full forecast on the Cowboy State Daily website. I'll be back in just 20 seconds with more news.
When we say community is the heart of Hilltop, we're talking about a team of bankers committed to improving the place we call home. A team that shows up every day to help businesses thrive and gives back to our neighbors through time, attention, and service. We're inspired by the way our bankers give back because that's one of the many qualities that makes us truly a community bank. Hilltop Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
The couple who set a new Utah state record with a humongous 2,289-pound pumpkin this weekend may have a Wyoming pumpkin-growing virtuoso to thank for it. The seed that Ralph and Lona Lobb used to grow their gargantuan gourd came from Andy Corbin, a Cheyenne pumpkin grower who set Wyoming's state record last October when he showed up to a weigh-in with a 2,062-pounder. That's according to Cowboy State Daily's Andrew Rossi.
The pumpkin community is pretty small. I mean, people who grow giant pumpkins, there aren't a lot of them, and they all know each other and they all try to help each other out. But I think it's saying something that the state record holder in the state of Utah was grown from a seed from a Wyoming pumpkin. That's showing that Wyoming's got what it takes to grow these massive pumpkins, and we'll see a lot bigger ones in the future.
The Wyoming State Champion Pumpkin Weigh-Off will be underway at the Washakie County Fairgrounds in Worland on Saturday. A 19-year-old Cheyenne man was sentenced Monday to 5 to 7 years in prison for shooting his brother's killer in the foot and brandishing a firearm toward a woman who was in his way. Leandro Dominguez was originally charged with attempted first-degree murder and 3 assault charges. But Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports that after striking a plea agreement with the Laramie County District Attorney's Office, he agreed to plead guilty to 2 aggravated assault charges.
He has no criminal history. You know, he stayed out of trouble. Judge Cooley indicated, like, your character and your history do not match this crime. And then his defense attorney, Devin Peterson, said this was just a bizarre confluence of incidents culminating in this trauma where he watched his brother get shot. The shooting was determined justified by James Scully, but he watched his brother get shot. He goes and gets a gun. He returns to the scene. He charges and he fires at the shooter's foot. So it's kind of trauma upon trauma here in what was defined in court as youths escalating things.
If Dominguez completes the youthful offender program, he can return to the court and ask for a reduction on the remainder of his sentence. He also gets credit for the 229 days he's spent in jail during his prosecution. Archery hunter Landon Clement of Georgia told Cowboy State Daily that his Glock 10mm pistol jammed twice during a grizzly attack in the remote upper Green River Basin. Several factors could have caused the hunter's pistol to jam during the attack early Thursday, but Outdoors reporter Mark Hines spoke to gun experts who say Clement still performed well under terrifying pressure.
Maybe the type of ammunition, the pistol didn't really like it all that much and wasn't cycling it very well, or even the way you hold a pistol. If you don't hold it, if you don't have a good enough grip and enough resistance against the palm of your hand, it'll fail to cycle the action. So we don't know for sure why that pistol jammed.
Whether semi-automatic pistols or magnum caliber revolvers are better for bear defense is a debate that might never be settled. Revolvers are generally considered to be less prone to failure, but semi-automatics have a higher ammunition capacity. And Nathan Frederick had just put $700 into fixing up a used truck for his DoorDash delivery job when something completely unexpected happened. His vehicle caught fire. But Wyoming is a special place. Cowboy State Daily's Renee Jean reports that before emergency vehicles could respond, passers-by had taken action.
I was on my way home Sunday, and I got up to the Hat 6 exit just past Casper, and as I approach, I see this guy, he's like running around his truck and he's like making phone calls. Then I noticed fire coming out from underneath the hood. So I pulled up and around on the other side and came back to see if he needed any help. And the next thing I knew, he was like flooded with Wyomingites who were passing him fire extinguishers and jugs of water and helping him put out this fire that had started in his truck.
Frederick said that times like these make newcomers like him glad they live in Wyoming, where there's always a cowboy or two willing to go an extra mile to help a stranger in need. And that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting the daily newsletter button on cowboystatedaily.com. And you can watch this newscast every day by clicking subscribe on our YouTube channel. I'm Wendy Core for Cowboy State Daily.
Jake in the morning, Cowboy State Daily.
Thank you, Wendy. Let's go now live with Rod Miller. Rod, what's going on? I want to talk about your recipe, which does not sound
Jake,
good.
Jake, back up.
Huh?
Before we were so rudely interrupted by the staff meeting, we were talking about the buffalo flag.
Yeah.
People think the buffalo is sewn facing the wrong way on the flag. It's not a flag problem, Jake. It's a pole problem. People are putting the pole on the wrong side of the flag.
The pole's in the wrong place.
When I first logged in this morning, when you would go split screen, your King Ropes hat would be backward. It would say subordinate or something like that. And that's not a hat problem. That's a head problem. I got some stuff that'll fix that for you.
Mm-hmm. I want to tell, yeah, Ben, that needs to be an off-air discussion. Yeah, you've got a good point. It's just like, the old Native American saying, India not lost, teepee lost.
Teepee lost.
Yeah, it's all perspective, Rod. The pole's in the wrong spot. Dang. Well, you just make things so clear. The clarity. Your latest column proves to me that we share one thing in common, besides us being like the coolest dudes in Wyoming. We're big fans of Claire McFarland's writing. Oh my goodness.
Oh,
Claire.
Yeah, that last piece I did was a direct result of a conversation Claire and I had about Cowboy State Daily columnists needing to get out of the ruts that we were in, and writing about stuff that kind of bared our soul, and it's not in our comfort zone, just stretching our muscles and writing about stuff we don't typically write about. And Claire, as you know, is the queen of writing about columns of, cooking in the kitchen. The kids come in with these Ozzie and Harriet problems and stuff like that. Take them all together. Claire, and we'll tip our Stetsons when that name is mentioned, for my money, is the best writer working in the state of Wyoming right now. So I thought, yeah, that's kind of smart. So I'm going to do a Claire column. And I did a Claire column about me cooking pumpkin spice, liver and onions, and, my kids coming in with their various, my kids are all in their 40s now, so they're not going through puberty anymore.
Claire, Claire's probably got a big head right now, as big as it's going to get. But yeah, I was mentioning that it's really hard to write courts and crime, to be that kind of a reporter. I can never be like that. And then do the stuff she does when she gets jiggy with it, with her column and with her kids and with her family. She's just like, she's a whole nother person. Yeah, she covers it all. She writes it all.
I have said before, and I'll say it again, every time Claire McFarland picks up her pen, she gives us all a writing lesson. She's that good. Now, and buried within that column I wrote is a great recipe for a Halloween dish if you want to fortify your family.
There's a smell coming out of your kitchen that makes intruders want to stay away. Seriously, Anya, describe what's going on in there. Like the liver, yeah.
Well, you don't knock it if you haven't tried it.
Okay.
And I've got the conversation I had with Claire. I've got my next column. I'm working on it in my head as we speak. Haven't written a word yet. But Claire suggested that I do an old campfire column about the cowboys around the campfire. And they're all wanting to register in the Republican Party in Wyoming. So they get these flyers in the mail, and they're talking about what they have to do to register as a Republican, a real Republican in Wyoming. And I think I'm going to have some scenes in there where there's this secret rally out in the Red Desert somewhere where anybody who wants to be a real Republican shows up, and they go through, the hazing rituals and the gauntlet, and they have to prove their love for Trump by spending, a half an hour naked alone with him in the Orange Room, and then they got to burn books. And, becoming a Republican today under Oral Ethorn is way different than it was back in my day, where all you had to do to be a Republican was register a Republican. And I think it's important that we point that difference out.
This sounds like GOP's Burning Man in Wyoming. Super good idea.
I'm gonna I'm gonna write that down.
It's
gonna
the
be
GOP's Burning Man. Yeah, you can borrow that if you want. I haven't trademarked it yet. Yeah, so the key to your dish you're talking about is you got to slice the liver thin so it picks up the pumpkin. What is it? Like, what are we eating? Would I like it? I don't think I'd like it.
I've never cooked it. I've never eaten it. I never will. It's just something that, came together in my head. And a lot of stuff that comes together in my head, I've got better sense than to try.
Yeah.
So.
Test it on the dog. Yeah. I hear you. You need a canary in the coal mine first. Yeah. Let's make sure.
I had a couple of 3 columns ago, I wrote about Doug Crow. And Doug Crow was just like a planner in the Wyoming Game and Fish Department. And I had a beer with, several of his guys who worked in the Game and Fish and Bob Budd. Are we on a time clock here? You kept looking up. Do I need to shorten this?
Oh, I look up every time I get an email. Don't worry about that.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry about what I'm doing.
There's always been this apocryphal story on the streets in Wyoming about Doug Crow having these off-the-chain parties. And at one of these parties at Art Reese's house, and Art Reese confirmed it because he was there. And Crow was in charge of making margaritas for all these ecologists and politicians and who are just getting faced in his house. And on the picture of margaritas, he pulled a frozen carcass of a muskrat out of his freezer that was in there for somebody to do some research on or something. He put it in a blender, blended it up with tequila and triple sec, and sent it out to the crowd. And at that point, the reports vary that nobody knew the difference, or on the other side, they farted outside on the snow and the dog wouldn't even touch it. I do not recommend muskrat margarita.
No. And given now a better understanding of your culinary background, I don't trust anything coming out of the kitchen of Rod Miller, quite honestly. But yeah, so much to digest there. Excuse the pun. You need
that was a great pun.
You need a court jester. You need a court taster. Didn't the king have tasters? And, he could try whatever concoction comes out of your kitchen.
Jake, that was because people were always trying to poison the king.
Yeah.
Fascinated him by poison. So he'd have guys eat stuff. So, and if they died, he wouldn't eat it.
Right.
Dude, I'm not going to poison you. I'm going to grow you big and strong.
I don't know. If you want to see what Rod's got cooking up, read his latest column in the Cowboy State Daily, and just reading it without the visual, without the smell and the taste, I'm feeling queasy. I don't know.
Yeah, but the saving grace is you'll never get fat from reading my columns.
Yeah.
You got to actually eat the laptop to get some calories.
Yep. So now, how often, we got to figure out your phone situation and why that might have been happening, but how often can we see you on Zoom? How often can you get to headquarters there in Cheyenne?
Jake, anytime you want. If we can get the phone thing figured out. And I called Jimmy after I talked to you, and it sounds fine to him. So,
yeah. Well,
I have an old school flip phone.
Yeah.
Which cost me $40.
Oh, well, there's your problem. Yeah.
Yeah, that could be it.
Jake,
I live 3 blocks from the barn. So if you ever want me here, I just walk over and Jimmy will set me up on this thing and we'll talk.
That's what I'm asking.
You can tell me things in these conversations you'd be afraid to tell anybody else.
Only when I'm... Yeah.
They'll never make it into a call.
Only when I'm lying down horizontal on a couch. Yes. All shall be revealed. Yeah. I might do that. So you'll be my regular therapy.
Anytime, buddy.
Yeah.
You're going to have some fun with this.
Yeah. Yeah.
program. It's going to drive you batshit crazy for a while, but you're going to have some fun with it.
I might be a regular thing where you're my therapy. When I'm feeling like need to be talked down off the ledge, I'm going to Dr. Rod. Yeah.
And they're billable hours, and I accept payment in Bitcoin and Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Roger that. Siri, do you dabble in the Bitcoin thing?
No, my son Victor does.
I don't understand it. I don't like it. I'm afraid of it. Does Victor know what he's doing?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Vic was a kid who ran for mayor as an AI candidate.
Well, then he definitely knows what he's doing.
He knows all
he's
about
comfortable in that world. Yeah. I don't trust money the computer made, because obviously my computer can't even do this show right now. So the fact that it's going to be mining coin is beyond me. But
it all comes. There's a Texas singer-songwriter named Ray Wiley Hubbard, and you're probably most familiar with him for writing Snake Farm.
Mm-hmm.
And he wrote a song called "The Rabbit," where this dog is chasing this rabbit. And there's a line in the song that says, "It's the night people's job to get the day people's money." And that encapsulates capitalism. If you go into a capitalist system with that in mind, you'll never get burned.
Interesting. That is something to chew on right there. A quote from a song called "The Rabbit" from Ray Wiley Hubbard.
Yeah, listen to the song. It's like
Wow.
I saw this old dog chasing a rabbit. I saw this old dog chasing a rabbit. I saw this old dog chase a rabbit. It was Sunday around noon. I said to the rabbit, "Are you going to make it?" I said to the rabbit, "Are you going to make it?" I said to the rabbit, "Are you going to make it?" And the rabbit said, "Well, I got to."
Oh, man. I'm going to go listen to that song. Words of wisdom today from Cowboy State Daily's Rod Miller, and coming out of the pen, off the pen of Ray Wiley Hubbard. I'm going to go listen to that song right now. Rod, thank you. Whenever I need
Always a pleasure, my friend.
whenever I need some therapy, I'm looking for you.
Okay.
Rod Miller. Yeah, I got to take a fast break and maybe go listen to the Ray Wiley Hubbard song, "The Rabbit." That is interesting. What a line. Coming back right after these.
Three Crown Petroleum is a private oil and gas company that drills oil wells in Wyoming, adjacent states, and internationally. Three Crown is actively looking to lease minerals for drilling or to buy minerals, royalty, or existing production within Wyoming. To learn more about Three Crown, call or text Howard Cooper at 970-756-4747. Again, call or text Howard Cooper at Three Crown Petroleum, 970-756-4747.
In southwest Wyoming, wide open space is waiting. This is how we explore it. In Rock Springs and Green River, Wyoming. Plan your adventure at explorewy.com.
Cowboy State Daily is all about Wyoming. Daily features include our popular sunrise photo of the day, our daily Darwin, Same Guys Dancing, and more. You'll enjoy our regular Wyoming life features, daily video newscasts and podcasts, and frequent opinion pieces from a carefully curated collection of the state's finest columnists. All of this in addition to the core mission, providing statewide news coverage in a clear, plain manner with up-to-the-minute breaking news when and where it happens. Cowboy State Daily's collective of reporters, photographers, videographers, and editors are dedicated to quality, unbiased daily journalism here in Wyoming. Find out why Cowboy State Daily is considered Wyoming's largest and most experienced newsroom. All it takes is one visit, cowboystatedaily.com.
Back, Cowboy State Daily Morning Show with Jake. And, you know, with all apologies for the video portion of the broadcast this morning, still working out some kinks, we got to tech it out, man, as they say in the biz thing out, because I don't know. But we'll figure out why certain things happen and certain things don't. I do want to circle back with Mark Hines' story over the weekend that you might have missed about the most Wyoming story you're ever going to read. Little House on the Prairie, a one-room schoolhouse in a little Siberia, a place in the middle of nowhere, Wyoming, that's so remote, the locals refer to it as Little Siberia. They don't know any different. And it was just too arduous and too treacherous to think about sending the kids to school. So these ranchers said, we'll make our own school. That's simple, right? Not really. It was really difficult. 6 years in the making, and it finally happened. And just to play the video for you, where you can see the work of our fairly new videographer, cinematographer, I don't know what he refers to himself as, Riley Strand. I mean, the work he did on this story to flesh it out off the pen of Mark Hines into the camera lens of Riley Strand and then beamed out at you over the interwebs. I mean, that's the magic. That's the magic we're trying to create at Cowboy State Daily, where we're trying to, reflect Wyoming to Wyoming, show Wyoming itself. That's the whole real point of journalism, is to just hold a mirror up to society, hold a mirror up to your readers and say, this is you, this is us, this is Wyoming. And that's what we're doing at CSD, Cowboy State Daily. We want to just share Wyoming with you, whether you live here and know that and just need a reminder that, hey, this place is great and hey, this happened, or whether you live outside the state and wish you were here or used to be here, or may one day be here and call yourself a Wyomingite. We do it all for you, all you folks, and can't do it without you. I want to check in with the Western Ag Network, and so happy to have them on board with their rodeo show. I'm a crazy, huge fan of rodeo, and rodeo is so Wyoming, speaking of Wyoming. So we're going to get really Wyoming. We're going to get Cowboy State here. Go back with Mark Hines, great story, and then rodeo. That's as Wyoming as it gets. Quick shot here at the Rodeo Roadshow.
It's the Rodeo Roadshow on the Western Ag Network. Hi, everybody. I'm Will Rasmussen. Glad to have you along. Today, another conversation with Lisa Lockhart, the legend from Ulrich, South Dakota. We talked to her about a couple years ago, and she was on the bubble, and being well inside the top 15 as opposed to being on the bubble to make it to the National Finals Rodeo. She has some great comments. I think you'll like them. Stay close. The Roadshow is coming up next.
Experience the ultimate rush. There's only one sport that's dangerous. There's only one sport that's fast. There's only one place where it all happens. The Nile Pro Rodeo. It's 8 heart-pounding rodeo events with the greatest athletes in the arena. Join us October 11th through 12th at Metro Park for 2 electrifying performances. Secure your tickets now at metropark.com. Get ready. This is the Nile Pro Rodeo.
Ready for a real PRF partner? At Ag Risk Advisors, this isn't our first rodeo. We are one of the most experienced in pasture rangeland forage. Honesty, commitment, trust. Many companies use these words. At Ag Risk Advisors, we earn them.
The deadline to enroll in pasture rangeland forage insurance is December 1st. Visit prfadvisors.com to enroll.
You know, seems like the last couple of years that you were on, was it last year that you were really chasing that to get into the top 15, it seemed.
A couple of years ago, 21 and 22 especially.
There you go. Yeah, 22. I remember seeing you at Moses Lake, Washington in the middle. You had pulled in the middle of the night, or you had just gotten there, and you were running hard. I mean, you were like 20 to 25 right in there. But
yeah,
it's got to be a good feeling. You're well inside. You're the number 6 is what the standings told me. That's got to be a better feeling than having to go, right?
Oh my goodness, without a doubt. Yeah, that being on the bubble is Oh, yeah, that's hard. That is so hard. And I have sympathy and empathy for anybody in that situation. And I just, it was that year, and I didn't really want to keep pursuing it. And, without my husband Grady's push, he just said, it's mathematically possible. It's probably not likely, but it's still mathematically possible. He's like, you'll regret it if you don't. Go 2 more weeks. And then, that got us into Labor Day weekend. And we came from a long ways behind.
The great Lisa Lockhart on the Rodeo Roadshow. I'm Will Rasmussen on the Western Ag Network.
Yeah, for rodeo competitors everywhere, with a PRCA card that pushes on to get into the National Finals Rodeo coming up in December. The NFR, it's the Super Bowl of rodeo, and obviously by the calendar, look, it's October 1st. Summer's over, so the majority of the big rodeos are done. There's a few more where you could earn money, and money is points to get you into the NFR. And yeah, we're getting down to the end of it. If you're not top 10, if you're not sitting top 10 now, boy, you better be awful close or you're just too far out. Love following rodeo. Me, I like following the high school rodeo, the Wyoming high school rodeo scene. I announce a broadcast rodeo for an outfit down there in the Evanston area, and with replays on demand at the Cowboy Channel Plus app. So I'm happy to hit all these rodeos throughout the state. It's pretty fun. Love Wyoming, love rodeo. Let's talk about Mark Hines' story. I think I can get it up here on the Google, or I think I can get it up here on what you see. And just a reminder of what we're trying to do here with the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show. The eventuality, our vision is to have it, so invasive in your life that you can't get away from it. We're just going to chase you down. We're going to be that crazy ex-girlfriend, I guess, or ex-boyfriend. Aside from stalking you, no, seriously, we want to just be so everywhere, so omnipresent that we're on morning radio. So wherever you go, the idea is to become syndicated morning show on statewide radio, so that where you're traveling, wherever you live, you just turn on the radio and hey, there's the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show. For now, though, the broadcast lives on our webpage, cowboystatedaily.com. The stream can be picked up at Vimeo, YouTube, X, Facebook Live, a couple other places, I guess. This is out of my hands. I do what I can to hand it off out of the janky studio I got here with this computer. And from there on, it hits all the socials from what I understand. And while you're there, don't forget to hit subscribe so you're always tuned into what we're doing and you never miss anything. Your daily morning routine. And the idea being that we can expand out, we can expound upon some of the stories that are in Cowboy State Daily, some of the stories that deserve more than just a quick scan of your eyeballs, more than just the estimated 9-minute read it took to read this story from Mark Hines over the weekend. In case you missed it, new one-room schoolhouse opens in Wyoming's Little Siberia. What a fantastic story. I want to take you there with the on-screen sharing. This is the story you see, and it's just a really cool story. If you haven't had a chance to read it, I ask you to take time to go read it, but the video is what floors me. But anyway, the gist of the story, Albany County is an area so remote, it's called Little Siberia. There's really, in this area, there's nothing. I mean, it's just flat dirt road and a ranch or two. What do you do if you're a family that has a couple of kids and they got to get to school? Well, you can homeschool them. like a lot of parents choose to do. But what if you're parents that just aren't comfortable with that? You don't want to play the role of teacher. Maybe you don't have time to play the role of teacher, or you recognize that your kids need somebody a little more pro than you are. So that was the idea of this ranch family that had a couple of kids. The closest school is Rock River, and that's over an hour away on good road. Forget about it in the winter. You're an hour and a half from, over treacherous road. And I can't imagine I don't know why they even keep the roads open. I saw the video of this place in summer, a couple of weeks ago. I can't imagine with winter in the southeast part of the state down there where this is, and the wind blows like it does. You've traveled I-80. You know how you need 1 inch of snow to be problematic in your travels. That's all it takes. 1 or 2 inches. And the way it blows, as soon as snow runs up against something, it's just going to pile up. And the idea that they can keep these roads plowed, I don't know how. I can't imagine. Anna and Carson Anderson have 2 school-age kids named Emmett and Waverly, and they just couldn't imagine the drive to Rock River or even Laramie, which are the 2 closest options for a public school. So they wanted to open their own school because they didn't want a homeschool. They wanted a teacher, and all they needed is a 1-room schoolhouse. That was their vision. Our kids can benefit, they say, and then maybe a couple of nearby ranches. So how do you make a school? Not as easy as you would think. The Antelope Creek School opened after 6 years of legal wrangling, as you can read. And yeah, it's, schools have to be state chartered, and there's all kinds of rigmarole that you got to go through. Red tape is what I like to call it. So Carson and Anna, they took this thing all the way to the Supreme Court. Wyoming Supreme Court denied their request for a schoolhouse. And this is where the story gets even more Wyoming than a 1-room schoolhouse in the middle of nowhere. That's pretty Wyoming. Little house on the prairie. Come on. Where are you going to see that? Huh? You listening to us up there in the Bronx? Are you listening to us from Dallas, Plano, Fort Worth area? Are you dropping in this morning from downtown Cincinnati? Can you imagine a 1-room schoolhouse in the middle of nowhere? For one thing, here, let me get my sound effects going. For one thing, it's going to sound like wind. Do I have wind? Sorry, I'm looking for my sound effects. Oh, no, that's crickets. That doesn't convey a 1-room schoolhouse in the middle of nowhere. I need like wind. There we go. There you are. Now let's pretend you're Emmett sitting there in class trying to understand the basics of the multiplication table. I don't know if he's ready for that. He looks like a little kid. I don't think he's doing multiplication. But anyway, you live in Little Siberia, and you're in school. I forget why I'm even bringing this up. Because, just trying to fathom, just trying to imagine this place. And you're going to do more than imagine because you're going to see it in a minute. I'm going to play you the video. Honest, I'm going to get to it. So you won't have to imagine. Because Riley Strand got it all on video. It's fantastic, this story. But where it gets super Wyoming, even more so than the 1-room schoolhouse, is the fight in this couple to not quit. As I said, the Supreme Court told them no. You can't have a school. 6 years of banging their head against the wall. And the Supreme Court, Wyoming Supreme Court says no. That's when you pack up and go home, right? You pack up your toys and you say, well, we give it a try. We give it a shot. Not these two, not these ranching kids. The mom is quoted, the last line of the story is she hopes this serves as an example for their kids. The fact that they just wouldn't give up, even when the Wyoming Supreme Court said no, they kept fighting 6 years. And the mom said, life's hard. You have to pick your hard. And this is the hard we picked. That's good stuff. Here's Cowboy State Daily's story about the story that Mark Hines wrote. It's pretty incredible. I'm going to play it for you now.
Hello, this is Mark Hines with Cowboy State Daily. You might be wondering, what is this schoolhouse doing in the middle of one of the most remote areas of Wyoming? This schoolhouse is a result of 6.5 years of efforts by the Anderson family to bring back a local school to their community, and so their kids can get a quality public education right next door to home. Well, let's start first with the place, with the setting. If you're headed due north out of Laramie, you start getting into some country that maybe not a lot of people, even in Wyoming, appreciate. They just see it as drive-through country. You're starting to get ever deeper into this territory that the locals call it Little Siberia, and it feels extremely isolated, stark, remote. It has a beauty and an allure all of its own. You get to the ranch of the Anderson family, and on that ranch, just this week, they were finally able to reopen their one-room schoolhouse on that property.
5 generations here. My great-grandpa come out in the early 1900s, late 1800s, and homesteaded. Thank goodness they did, and I've been here ever since.
This is a community that's made of families that go back 5 generations or more. And for most of the history, they've had a one-room schoolhouse there for the children to attend. Just in recent years, that folded, and they were without a school. They were without options.
It just was very frustrating that all of a sudden, no more rural schools. And I just thought it was kind of right that they need to have the rural schools, because that's kind of how Wyoming has always been.
The best option was to try to get kids back down the road, which can be extremely treacherous during the winter, at least to Rock River, if not all the way into Laramie, which is over 2 hours away. And that just wasn't feasible.
That was the option, to drive to Rock River or do virtual learning. And virtual learning is not an effective way to teach little kids, and that's what I have. I have little kids. And Rock River was pretty simple, no, because I can't get there in the winter. It's not safe to put them or my husband or myself or a bus driver on this road. That's not an option.
And they met a lot of, surprisingly, some political resistance. They took it to the Wyoming Supreme Court and actually had their request denied not all that long ago. But they persisted. They got some funding through the legislature, and that all came to fruition this week.
Now, therefore, I, the Honorable Mark Gordon, Governor of Wyoming, do hereby proclaim this day of recognition for the opening of Antelope Creek Elementary School in Albany County School District Number 1.
It was extremely challenging getting that building. It took them the better part of 2 days to get that building transported up that road. But once it was there, they set it down on its new foundations. It's very convenient because roughly half of it is, the classroom and a kitchen for the kids. And the other half is living quarters for the teachers.
And my desk is over here, so this is where I kind of have my space of things. But we do a lot of our work here together. Since there's only about 3 of us.
It's really the new beginning of an old tradition that goes back generations.
I just think that the Anderson family is doing something great with putting this school here, so I think it's cool to kind of bring back those traditions, and you're just playing a big part of this family generational ranch, which I think is great. They did tell me the year before, They were snowed in for 7 weeks. And that's the first time I heard that. I'm glad they didn't tell me that in the interview. I don't know if I would have taken it. No, I'm just kidding.
And she said, you know, this is the perfect fit for me. This is the next step in my career. This is what I want to do.
Really, I mean, if you can tell, this isn't much bigger than a typical living room.
Yeah, and we've had to fit a lot in here, but it's very versatile. Everything has to, I mean, this is our lunch table, but we also do reading activities here. And, you know, we have reading stuff over there, but then we also have to have workspace on our desks. And it's just kind of we've had to make everything work for all subject areas.
She is going or has gone from teaching a classroom full of 23 students in the middle of a, you know, typical American suburban setting to teaching 2 kids in a tiny one-room schoolhouse out in the middle of nowhere. Speaking to the Anderson especially, you can just tell the deep care and passion they have for education and for the future of their children, and also the value of being able to keep the family together. It sets a precedent, I think, for all of Wyoming and really all of the region, where we're starting to see a lot of these little one-room schoolhouses out in what other people might consider to be the middle of nowhere, but where these families consider to be home.
I think it shows, you know, you do gonna have to put some work into it, and things are really tough and things are gonna be hard, but the thought of my family not being here with me is what really motivated me. I'm really close with my kids and my wife, and just because you have to be when this is all the people you see. And so I'm hoping this could help people that might be in the same situation, that maybe there's a path for them if they'd like to try it too.
To me, it's a pure Wyoming story. They'll be able to stay together. They'll be able to spend their days together. That really means a lot to them. What this Antelope Creek School might do is set a precedent for other schools and give them a boost of hope that this can be done. You can keep your ranch community school and you can make it work.
Yeah, I love that story. Mark, great job on the story. Riley, great job on the video. It just brings it to life. So cool. What a story. You know, a few things jump out at me. The fact that people, generational ranching people, choose to live this way purposely, not in a big city, not even near a big city. Closest town is Rock River, and that's a blink and you'll miss it. Signposts are back to back, as Hal Ketchum says in his country song. Yeah, and the only people you see from day to day are your family. That's it. And now this teacher, so that's pretty cool. Another part of the story that didn't get fleshed out in the video is the fact that moving this building, you know, they had to get the school. They had to find a school building. They did find an underutilized highway department building that really wasn't being used. And Carbon County was more than happy to get rid of it for about $80,000. And then it was transporting it. And some expert guy, a foundation guy, was able to pick that building up and drive it ever so carefully, ever so slowly. Reminds me of, remember when they had the Apollo launches and they used to drive the missile, the Apollo to, you know, Cocoa Beach from Miami? I don't know. They used to drive it to the launch site. And the trip was like maybe a quarter mile, but it took days because this thing could only go like 0.000 miles an hour. You had to be of that generation. So it reminds me of that. This guy had to crawl that building in there on a truck because the road sucks. Can you imagine? You've been on some bad Wyoming roads, all washboarded, big old potholes. And you're driving a building, so you got to be kind of careful. You know, you can't drive it like I drive it. And every time they got to a fence, every time they got to a cattle guard, this building couldn't fit between the fence posts. Fence, cattle guard, and the building was too wide, would knock over. So they had to have a crew with chainsaws cut down the fence so the guy could get through. And behind him, they said they basically traveled behind the school traveling, they basically had a construction crew ready to rebuild fence everywhere the load went. Amazing. Just getting the building there. And then finally, the most astounding part of that story is the way they pronounce Albany in Albany County. Albany. It's like Mark saying wolf. I say Albany. Don't you? What do you say? Whenever I'm talking to you, I got to use this camera. What say you? I say Albany. But these folks from Little Siberia, remember they probably have a bit of a Russian accent, say Albany. You heard that guy say that when he was reading the proclamation from the governor. Albany. That's what stood out to me, that whole story. 5-minute video, 9-minute read, and I just can't get over the way they pronounce Albany.
Your attention is precious. That's why Blue Cross Blue Shield of Wyoming works hard to make navigating your health care easier. Because having the right health insurance means not having to think about it, letting you focus on you. That's the benefit of Blue.
Three Crown Petroleum is a private oil and gas company that drills oil wells in Wyoming, adjacent states, and internationally. Three Crown is actively looking to lease minerals for drilling or to buy minerals, royalty, or existing production within Wyoming. To learn more about Three Crown, call or text Howard Cooper at 970-756-4747. Again, call or text Howard Cooper at Three Crown Petroleum, 970-756-4747.
Wyoming is the cowboy state. From corner to corner, there are so many stories to be told, and more cowboys and cowgirls are turning to the Cowboy State Daily News team to keep them in touch with what's happening both locally and in other parts of Wyoming. I'm Riley Strand, videographer and production assistant for Cowboy State Daily Video News. We're proud to bring the most important stories to our viewers every day. The stories that start conversations, the stories that make us laugh, the stories that make us think. Our experienced journalists at Cowboy State Daily are crisscrossing the state every day, talking to those who know the news best. Every day, host Wendy Core and I talk to the reporters who are covering the topics, issues, and people that are important to Wyomingites. And in our daily newscast, we bring you those stories. Tune into the Cowboy State Daily video newscast every morning, only on cowboystatedaily.com.
Back live in studio one last time, Cowboy State Daily Morning Show with Jake, the inaugural broadcast, full of every bump and bruise and beat up CPU on the computer we had. Yeah, we had our issues, but we got through it. And you, who shared a part of your day with us, have done something that will never be done again. And you can always say you were there when we went on the air first and launched. This may be one day worldwide domination. Cowboy State Daily. Wyoming show here when we got the whole thing started on radio. This is radio, even though you're getting moving pictures with it. We've come into a new age. Today's radio has a video element just because your eyes need something to do. As we wrap things up in the 9 o'clock hour, hopefully you'll make it a routine to join us every Monday through Friday, 6 to 10. Your Don Day weather forecast around the state. Beautiful day today. Areas of smoke, places we have wildfires for sure. And then some freeze warnings before 9. Those are kind of over everywhere except Bondurant. You're going to be cold all day. But even Bondo is going to get up to 70 today. But for the rest of the state, mid-upper 70s, low 70s in the western half. Evanston, you're sunny and 74 today. And Pinedale, some smoke in Pinedale, but otherwise heading for a high of around 70, 72 in Afton. DuBois is going to be a little windy with highs around 71 in the Bighorn Basin. Cody, you're up to 77 for a high today. And Sheridan looks to be the hot spot. Sheridan's going to do better than 80 by the time it's all said and done today. 81 the expected high in Sheridan. Torrington, 78 and sunny. That's just part of the day weather forecast as we look around the state. And yeah, tomorrow, again, I think the first thing we'll do is keep an eye on those wildfires. Elk Fire, we feel for you, Dayton. Be safe, careful, our firefighters especially working on that Elk Fire. And then the complex of what is the Pack Creek Fire along with that pesky Fish Creek Fire. Both of those burning side by side on Togety Pass and pushing northeast to threaten a legendary icon of a lodge in the Brooks Lake Lodge, owned by Max Chapman. Max, man, we feel for you, man. I hope, firefighters doing everything they can to save that thing. They've wrapped parts of it. They're throwing water on that thing. Brooks Lake Lodge, I imagine summer activities. That's a dude ranch at 9,300 feet. I'll tell you what, man, if you never bucked hay at 9,300 feet, I don't know how fit you think. Take a job at Brooks Lake Lodge and you throw saddles and buck hay at 9,300 feet. And you wonder where all the oxygen went. Yeah, I've been up there a bunch. They're open in the winter for, you can snowmobile in, get a great lunch. What a hamburger they have there. But I imagine they're kind of wrapped up with this season dude ranching, and I'll bet all those horses are long gone out of there. And right now it's just all about protecting that building, protection that structure. You got Pinnacle Summer Homes and other summer homes that are in that area on the road to Brooks Lake Lodge, and most of those are not occupied at this. Well, I guess some of them might be occupied this time of year, but once the snow starts flying, they shutter. But those homes are threatened as well. So we'll check in with the fire, and you can check in daily today on Cowboys. Find out how those two, that big story of the day, the wildfires and what it's doing. But yeah, it's problematic, and it's the first thing we're going to look at tomorrow when we join you. But for now, we got to say adios, and thanks so much for joining us. Good morning. This is the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show with Jake. The new way Wyoming wakes up.
The views and opinions expressed on the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show are solely those of its host and do not necessarily represent those of Cowboy State Daily